was some night.
Yeah, I bet. You're in studio tomorrow?
No, I'm in. I fly back to Jacksonville tonight.
Okay.
I'm in studio Thursday.
Okay. I forgot yesterday was a holiday. There was a lot of sports on TV that I could have watched during the day.
Yeah.
I had shit to do, but when you go to work in the morning, you just assume that it's a work day. It was Monday.
Right.
It didn't feel like a holiday. It felt like a Monday. I'm like, oh crap. It won't get finished today behind, but Buffalo went home.
Yeah. The Bills went home. It's not official, but we're all operating under the assumption as if this game is not going to be played.
And I hate to say this, but is Buffalo going to have to forfeit this game?
No.
What are they going to do? Make it a tie?
No, they'll make it a no contest. Okay. Right now, the thought is that the Chiefs and the Bills the Bengals and the Bills will just play 16 games, which will hurt. I mean, it will cost the Bills home field advantage in all likelihood, but
1 minute. $30 seconds. $15 seconds. Here we go.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
top of the morning to you. First Tuesday of 2023. And we always ask you the question, how the heck are you? Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Thanks so much for being with us. For many of you, you are back to work today, maybe for the first time since before the Christmas or Hanukkah holiday, but certainly after the New Year's holiday. I am in Cincinnati after the events during the Bills-Bengals game last night. Mark in the cozy confines of the 239. Good morning, my friend. How are you?
Good, David. Good morning. That was something we've never seen before last night. That had to be, I can only imagine what it was like in the booth because it was incredibly surreal on couches across America as we watched what you were witnessing firsthand, David. It was as scary of a situation as we'll ever see during the game, or at least as close to as scary as we'll ever see, at least for right now, because the young man is still living, and that was in question for some time. But boy, oh boy.
So, from the booth's perspective, so T. Higgins catches the pass across the middle, crosses midfield, lowers his head, shoulder into Damar Hamlin. You know, big hit. It's football. First down, Bengals. And if I could just pause for a moment, as is so often the case, Mark, it was a beautiful night. It's January 2nd in Cincinnati, Ohio. It's 60 degrees. All right. The joint was jumping. You know, they call it the jungle. And, you know, we had been there a couple times previously. It ain't never sounded to us like it did last night. And, you know, the Bengals won the toss and took the ball. It was like, you know, this sucker is on from the opening kickoff. Let's go. And you just sense that this is big. I mean, you know, Troy said it has a championship game feel. Now, back to the play. And so Hamlin gets up, and there's a moment, and then he collapses. Well, we thought what I think most people would think in that situation. Oh, he suffered a head injury here. Uh-oh, he's out. And, you know, they rushed to attend to him. Some players turned frantically to the bench like, hey. Well, that often happens. A gruesome ankle injury, a knee injury, what have you. So, you know, what we're seeing, I don't want to say it's normal, but we're not thinking it is what it is. Some players rush out to be around him. Well, okay, that is not that abnormal. Now, when the whole team leaves the bench area to come around him, you're like, But some teams, that's their thing. They do that to rally and offer support. A stretcher with a backboard is rushed out onto the field, and once again, you're thinking, head and neck injury. They're being taking precautions here. Okay, an ambulance is being backed out onto the field. Okay, now this is unusual. And all the players make an oval, if you will, around Hamlin. And then one of our cameras, and by this point in time, we had shown the replay twice. And to be honest, they debated whether to show the replay because around that time, we're looking from our view and from the camera's view, which we're not showing all of you at home, but we're like, are they doing CPR? Holy blank, they're doing CPR. And then obviously, you know, things really change here. And, you know, we have a very good angle of not Damar, but of the people performing CPR on Damar. And the one scene that's etched in my mind, Mark, is the first gentleman who was doing the chest compressions. And, you know, say he had like a 3-minute shift. And so he's doing them obviously really hard, you know, almost frantically. And then someone else is going to take over for the next shift, which in and of itself is obviously very disconcerting, because the only reason you continue CPR is because someone's not breathing. And normally medical professionals, you know, keep their cool. I mean, that's why they are who they are. Besides the fact, Mark, on a warmer than normal evening that he was sweating profusely after doing 3+ minutes of CPR, the look on his face, I'll never forget. It was not a good look. And at that moment, I start thinking, OMG, are we going to have the worst case scenario here? And then unfortunately, Mark, we have to stay in work mode, which kind of sucks. You know, you have to keep your head in the game and to not feel, because, you know, you're human, you're feeling. And so then we have to, that fine line of being in good taste, everybody obviously craving information. You can't speculate. You can't give out one morsel of information that is inaccurate. And yet we can't show the medical professionals performing life-saving procedure on Damar Hamlin. We can't go that far. So I don't know what you felt, what it is that you saw, what it is you were craving. Did Joe, Troy, Lisa, John Perry say and do the right things? Were the pictures appropriate? I don't know. We did the best we could under obviously really bad circumstances. I thought the tone was very appropriate.
The tone was appropriate. I think what we wanted was information, but I think we've all learned over time is that you can't give out the wrong information, and that there was no information. What you were learning is that there was very little information to give.
Correct.
And I really thought that Susie Colbert, Booger McFarland, and Adam Schefter did an incredibly great job in studio for knowing as little as they did. I thought that the tone of Joe and Troy let everybody know exactly the severity of the situation without giving us any details.
And obviously we could not get any information from the field, you know, other than we noted at what time he collapsed. We noted how long they worked on him. We noted how long it was until he was removed from the field, so that if people who, you know, not everyone's watching, people are finding out on Twitter, people are calling other people at home going, oh my goodness, are you watching this? So Mark, unfortunately, then I start looking up whether or not any NFL players ever died during a game before. And there was one other instance in which it was really unrelated to football. A 28-year-old, Chuck Hughes, who played for the Lions back in 1971, suffered a heart attack late in a game against the Bears. There was like a little over a minute to go in the game. They finished the game at Tiger Stadium. Both players from the Bears and Lions found out afterwards that he died, but he did not die, they concluded, because of a football play. He died because he had an artery that was 80% blocked, and he suffered a heart attack at 28 years of age and died. You know, I mean, then I remember John McSherry, home plate umpire, big man. He collapsed on the field in Cincinnati on opening day in 96. And he would die. Not on the field, but they did CPR on the field in front of a sold-out Riverfront, and they removed him. And the umpire said, yeah, we can't keep working. And the Reds, and I forget who they were playing, said, well, okay, we'll come back tomorrow. And in terms of the game and what have you, I'll just say when the teams left the field, I knew we weren't playing football.
Yeah, the whole 5-minute warning thing did not go over well.
Yeah, well, I'll only go by what we saw. I mean, listen, the information, that 5 minutes, we got that from New York. I mean, you know, we didn't make that up. We got that from New York. The intent was to resume play. Remember, we showed the video, Stephon Diggs giving the big speech.
Right.
Okay. And then clearly the majority of the Bills were not in any shape to play. And credit Zach Taylor, the head coach of the Bengals. I think he recognized it. He walked back across the field and McDermott looked at him like, you know, and Zach was like, well, then, you know, we don't have to play. I mean,
Yeah,
I thought
took control of that completely.
I thought the two head coaches were phenomenal. So,
Miller and Moulton on what is as unusual of a Tuesday as we will have, certainly from a sports standpoint. Pat Kirwan will be on the show today. We'll do a starting five, and we'll keep on keeping on. Miller and Moulton right here on the Florida Sports Network.
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again.
Yeah. Hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're gonna have to go around again.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Live is the official transportation provider of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Live is supported with the help of local partners like the Bayfront Inn. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn, something for everyone on 5th Avenue in downtown Naples. BayfrontInNaples.com. When you need a ride, book with Salt Live Transportation, 308-8686, or book on saltlivetransportation.com.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network. David, is your phone near your bread box at all? I'm getting a little scratchy this morning.
How's that? How's that?
That's gone now.
Might have been the MiFi. I don't know what kind of text you have. You know, I will say this is one of the times I wish we had phones. Sometimes the silence was so deafening. Johnny Mac, I can just go by how trying to keep my head in the game, being, half broadcaster, half, I imagine how this sounds to everybody sitting at home. I was glad Joe and Troy didn't talk much. SEC me. Yeah, I mean, we're waiting official word, but I mean, the Bills went home. Now it's a short flight. I guess they could, fly back this afternoon and play, I guess, and nobody thinks that's going to happen. And if they're not playing today,
Then they're not playing.
then they're not playing.
30 seconds.
So, yeah, Mello, don't have to say anything. Yeah, that was something.
10 seconds.
Empanadas. Always empanadas, Johnny Mac.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
"21 minutes past the hour. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Thanks so much for being with us. I'm in Cincinnati in a bit of a holding pattern. We don't officially know for sure what is going on. We have an opinion as to what is going on after the events of last night in the Bills-Bengals game. Mark back in the cozy confines of the 239, where I will join him in a couple days once again. So what were you thinking and feeling sitting at home as this was going on?
I just kept thinking of what I wasn't thinking much. I was looking for information more than anything. And the biggest thing I was thinking was, is this young man alive?
Mm-hmm.
And I actually texted you that for the first time I haven't texted you in a year and a half when you're doing a game.
Mm-hmm.
I let you do your job. You don't need to hear from me. Enough yahoos text you who think that their comments are worthy of breaking into a national broadcast for. And there are plenty of them out there. And I don't mean like friends and family. I mean people in the business that text them going, what are you thinking? But neither here nor there. I sent one last night because the attitude of the broadcasters and the tone was suggesting to me that there was more there than that was there. That was my fear. They were so quiet and there was so little information being given out that I started fearing for the worst.
Well, if I remember the events correctly, there was a few minutes. Like, I don't believe we let the world know that CPR was being performed at the exact moment that CPR was being performed. I believe that that was something that we let unfold for close to 2 handfuls of minutes. And then it was to the point in which I think the decision was made that, well, I think everybody knows this is serious. Let's tell you how serious.
Because you're giving us the pictures that you can give us. And we're seeing Josh Allen being inconsolable. You're seeing Diggs with tears running down his face. You're seeing these players for Buffalo who are a mess.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm seeing that and you're not giving me information, unfortunately, my mind starts going to worst case scenario.
Well,
and that's why I thought you weren't giving us information. Because you have to confirm those things. You can't just,
sure.
You know, I mean, there's a lot that has to go into making a tragic announcement of any sort. So I kind of know what's going on in my head. I'm going, all right, they have to dot I's, cross T's before they give us anything. They can't just fly off on sketchy information. And the lack thereof made me worry more.
There are those in our Twitch chat room that are like, wow, you know, I'm glad I fell asleep. I missed it. I think I feel better that I had to read about it afterwards. Mello in our Twitch chat room said, me and my dad were watching Purdue Rutgers. Great finish. Game ended around 9. You know, the collision happened at 8:55. And so, you know, we started flipping around and all of a sudden we're like, what's going on? So appreciate, so far, most people seem to think that Joe, Troy, Lisa, John, and the studio show handled it pretty well. And we're appreciative of the tone and of the less is more approach. I hope you feel that they did a good job. They tried really hard. I know that. I mean, in a situation like that, you as a broadcaster are fully aware that every single word is going to be judged. Even us minor league broadcasters are aware when something like that happens. All right, so I can only imagine what those who had to do the speaking into the microphones, the pressure that they felt, knowing, boy, are they going to be judged by this.
And I will say, and you probably didn't hear any of the studio stuff, Booger McFarland was terrific. He really was, because he was scared to death, trying to come up with words, trying to be sincere. I mean, they had a lot of time.
Well, yeah.
And I thought he was terrific. Really did. And I thought everybody handled it with an unbelievable amount of professionalism. But Susie Colbert's asking Booger, hey, you were before they got to Joe, you know, before Joe kind of got to Troy about the plane thing, they went to them. Well, you played. And Booger's like, I've never seen anything like this. I can't, you know, in all my years of playing, I've never seen anything close to this. And having to answer for the unknown was something that in the moment was incredibly difficult. And I thought from top to bottom that they all, the booth, the studio show, I watched into Sports Center, which came on early with Van Pelt and Ryan Clark, I thought were terrific. And Van Pelt with Joe and Troy when they came on, terrific. So it went from sports to news rapidly, quickly.
Yep. Lisa Salters, I thought, did a very good job of relaying the information she was getting down on the field without speculating. She also relayed a scene that she witnessed And it turned out that she relayed it perfectly because we ended up capturing the video of it and showing it a little after the fact. And what she described was exactly what was on tape. John Perry was getting the information directly from New York in his headset in the booth. And that's why, Joe would literally turn to John and be like, okay, what'd they tell you? What are you hearing? I mean, it was John Perry that told America that this game was not resuming because he was just told it. I don't know who was talking to him in his headset. I don't know if it was officiating. I don't know if it was the league office. I'm assuming it was officiating and they were getting it from an office down the hall or getting it relayed to them or what have you. But, apparently the only controversy or debate out there is the whole 5-minute warm up and, to try to resume the game. The NFL is denying that that was ever the case. All I can tell you is everything that was said last night was not made up. Let the chips fall where they may.
Well, somebody said 5 minutes, obviously, because that was out there. The players almost acted as if, as you pointed out, Diggs giving the speech to his teammates as if they were going to play.
I mean, the Bengals started warming up. Not all of them, but Joe Burrow started throwing the ball around. All right, with some receivers warming back up. I mean, there was a moment down on that field in which, maybe we're going to resume this. And that moment quickly went away. McDermott and Zach Taylor spoke. Zach went back to his bench. A couple minutes later, I think Zach Taylor looked across and saw McDermott and was like this and walked back across the field to McDermott and they talked. And after they got done talking, Zach Taylor turned around, looked at his bench and motioned as if we're going to the locker room.
And said it. One of the two said, because you could read one of the two coaches' lips saying, we're going to the locker room.
And the Bengals went first.
At that point, it certainly appeared as if they were done for the night, and they were. Miller and Moulton on a strange Tuesday morning, to say the very least. We'll catch up with everything else that happened in sports next on the Florida Sports Network.
David Moulton for Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah. Hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
ma'am, if your party's not here, you're gonna have to go around again.
You had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Live is the official transportation provider of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Live is supported with the help of local partners like the Bayfront Inn. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn, something for everyone on 5th Avenue in downtown Naples. BayfrontInNaples.com. When you need a ride, book with Salt Live Transportation, 308-8686, or book on saltlivetransportation.com.
You You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
The bets get nullified, Lindy. A game has to reach a certain threshold. I know in college football there has to be 5 minutes left. A game has to go 55 minutes in order for bets to be official. So everybody gets their money back on any bet that was placed on the game. Racer, I don't know.
A little bit, Racer. I thought there was something that he said, but I was, after a while, I did a little bit of flipping because I missed an incredible goal to win the Canada-Czech World Junior game that Connor Bedard or whatever his name is had like 2-1 last night, had a sick goal for the winner. Sick. OT game winner in the World Juniors, and this kid's had 3 points. He's already set the record for most points ever in a World Junior.
I have to admit, I could have used a little World Junior last night. Are we still alive?
Yeah, we play Canada Wednesday. It's a biggie.
Semis or finals?
That's a bad question to ask me.
Sorry. I know we got beat early in the tournament. So did Canada. They lost their first game. I think we lost our second. Whew. He's critical. He's sedated. He's sedated and critical.
We won our group. We're playing Canada in the semis.
So
Come on, Paul. Bayless says this stuff just to get you people riled up, and it works every time.
well, Paul, I'm with you. You know, I understand the whole game, but there comes a time and a place in which it's like, oh, he took to Twitter and he said, we got to resume this game. This game's too important. It's too late in the season. Too much riding on it. Shimko, we're waiting official word from the league as to what they're going to do about this game. Because in theory, if they're going to resume it tonight or if they're going to resume it tomorrow, then we all got to stay somehow, some way. But as of like 2:30 in the morning, we got nothing. I will say this, Shimko, I'm operating under the assumption as if I'm going home.
10 seconds.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
"22 minutes before the hour. Thanks so much for being with us. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. I'm in Cincinnati in a bit of a holding pattern because we officially do not know the status of the Bills-Bengals game. I can tell you what I'm assuming, that the game is not going to be played, and I'm going home later today, but we'll see. We're awaiting official word. Mark in the cozy confines of the 239, where you got a watch party Sunday, right?
We've got a watch party. We're going to be at the Bayfront on where Goodlet and 41 come together in downtown Naples. And we're going to be watching football 1 o'clock on Sunday. The Clutch Vodka folks will be there. We'll have some drink specials. We'll be hanging out, watching ball, watching a little Dolphins-Jets.
Yep. And at the same time, the Patriots are scheduled to be in Buffalo to play the Bills, a game that I would expect to take place. Right now, it is time for
The Starting Five. 5 stories you need to know. It's the Starting Five on Miller and Moulton. Here's number 1.
So roughly 9 minutes into the Bills-Bengals game last night, Joe Burrow found T. Higgins across the middle on a 13-yard reception. He rammed into 24-year-old Bills safety Damar Hamlin, who, after getting up from the tackle, a second or so later collapsed on the field. Roughly 10 minutes of CPR was performed. The Bills released a statement a few hours ago that said that Hamlin did in fact suffer cardiac arrest and that his heartbeat was restored on the field, unquote. 30 minutes after he collapsed, Hamlin was taken off the field by ambulance, went to the best hospital in Cincinnati, a Kirwan unit, the only one of its kind in the greater Cincinnati area. The Bills went home after the game was called, if you will. The word that we got was midnight and thereabouts. The Bills were at the airport. They were flying home. As for the game, which doesn't seem all that important, even though from a standings standpoint, it was a significant one. Don't know. Will it be a no contest? They're not going to award a winner and a loser. They're not going to give both teams a tie. One would think either the game is not going to be played and the Bills and Bengals will play 16 games this year and everyone else will play 17, and you make seeding assignments based on winning percentage. Or they're going to rearrange the schedule in some way, shape, or form and try to play. Mark, if you were the league, would you play the game? Today? Tomorrow? You can't play it past tomorrow. I don't think you can play it past today. But
I don't think you can play it past today, David. I really don't.
I mean, if you could make the argument, we play games on Sundays and come back and play on Thursdays. Well, in theory, that would be a Wednesday to Sunday deal. You know, they could play this game midday Wednesday. But if you were the NFL, if I'm the NFL, to me, this is an interesting line if you're the NFL. Are you making the call or do you let the Bills make the call?
I'd be working with the Bills trying to come up with this. I really would.
Well, but let's be brutally honest. If you're the Bills and I'm the NFL, I want the game played. I mean, remember the lengths that the league went to during the pandemic.
Deep down, I think the Bills want it played.
Yeah, but maybe the timing's just not right. And let's face it, none of us know what they feel as a collective group. You know, maybe they regroup today and For the record, by the way, Hamlin is currently sedated and in critical condition. I hesitate to say more. Many a medical professional believes that he will survive. There are other instances of things like this occurring. Chris Pronger, a Hall of Fame hockey player, took a slap shot to the heart and collapsed on the ice, and he played 12 years afterwards. But anyway, that's the status of the Bills and the Bengals for whatever that is worth. I mean, you can extrapolate this out, though. If this game were to be a no contest, then the Chiefs could be the 1 seed simply by playing an additional game, because what's the best Buffalo can do? 13-3. Kansas City can post 14-3. Also, if this game is considered a no contest, the Bengals, by simple math, won the AFC North because they are 11-4. Baltimore is 10-6. Even if Baltimore is to beat Cincinnati on Sunday, since he would finish 11-5, Baltimore would finish 11-6. By winning percentage, Cincinnati would be on top. But the NFL has not made an official determination as to the future of the Bengals-Bills game. The Jets and the Dolphins are going to play at 1 o'clock on Sunday. And as of right now, there is no plan to have Tua be the quarterback in the game, according to Mike McDaniel. It's not even being considered. And he said, I'm letting Tua and the doctors do their thing. And if something changes, then I guess I'll have a decision to make. But McDaniel all but said that Tua would need to be practicing Wednesday, Thursday at the latest. And right now there's no plans and no talk of him being cleared, etc. Teddy Bridgewater, apparently a pinky injury on his throwing hand. He dislocated it, but they don't think he broke it. So it's one of those deals, put it back in place, hope the swelling goes down and hope that he can play. But right now, McDaniel doesn't even know if his backup is playing. So there you have it. The Bucs and Falcons are also playing at 1 o'clock on Sunday. Jags, as we learned yesterday, playing the 8:15 Saturday night game. Titans announcing Josh Dobbs is going to get his second start in that. Winner wins a division, loser in all likelihood goes home. A sad note officially in the NFL yesterday, former Jags offensive lineman Uche Nwaneri, 38 years old. He played 7 years with the Jags from 2007 through 2013. He died of apparent heart attack yesterday at the age of 38. College football, there were 4 bowl games yesterday. You may have forgotten since it was January 2nd and not January 1st, but they played the January 1st games on January 2nd. Mississippi State, Mark, yesterday was an interesting day if you were a gambler. The line on the Mississippi State-Illinois game was 2.5, 3.5. It was 10-10, final seconds. Mississippi State kicks a field goal. They're going to win 13-10. For most people, that's a push. For some, it's a half-point win. For some, it's a half-point loss. Then Illinois does, that crazy, you're going to run around, lateral, fumble, scooped, and scored by Mississippi State. Your final 19-10. Thank you very much. If you had Illinois in 3.5. Alrighty then. If you had USC and you were laying 2, like someone very close to me did, and by very close to me, I mean me, you had a 45-30 lead with a shade over 4 minutes to go. USC kicked the field goal to lead by 15. 15.
Yep.
With 4 minutes to go. Your final, Tulane 46, USC 45. a 2-play touchdown drive, followed by muffing the kickoff and having to fall on it on the 1, followed by 2 plays later, a safety, followed by, after the punt, a methodical drive and a game-winning touchdown with seconds to go. Good for Tulane. Awesome for Tulane.
Awesome for Tulane. Bad for USC.
Not awesome if you had USC -2. But that's why they call it gambling. This just in, if you had Purdue in 15.5, it wasn't enough. LSU 63, Purdue 7 in the Citrus Bowl.
Yeah, I don't know if it was enough in the first quarter.
63-7. You don't see that in a bowl game very often.
You would have covered the first quarter if you had 15.5.
Okay. On the Rose Bowl, Penn State pulled away from Utah 35-21. Right now, the line is officially 13. Georgia favored over TCU. For what it's worth on the bowls, I'm 21-20. Yeah, that's right. I've lost 10 of my last 13.
The heater is over.
Yes. Hello. NBA, there were 11 games last night. We'll give you 5 or 6 results. The Heat blew an 18-point halftime lead, then came back in the fourth and beat the Clippers 110-100. Bam with 31. Clay scored 54 in Golden State's double overtime win over Atlanta. That's okay. Donovan Mitchell had 71, the most points scored in an NBA game since Kobe, in Cleveland's overtime win against Chicago. LeBron looks like a bum because he merely scored 43 last night for the Lakers in their win over Charlotte. Brooklyn's won 12 in a row, and the Knicks blew out Phoenix. The Suns are just 2 games above 500. They won like 64 games last year. Anyway, college hoops, number 1 Purdue goes down. Rutgers beats them for the second straight year, 65-64 in state. FGCU hits a 4-point play with under 10 seconds to go in regulation to force overtime and beat Central Arkansas. JU a winner by 16. Bethune beat FAMU by 8. And Stetson by 6 over North Florida. Women's hoops, JU, Stetson, Bethune, and FGCU all victorious. They played the Winter Classic yesterday, Mark.
Yes, they did.
And it was apparently a classic.
It was a great game. It looked fantastic. I even liked the unis that they wore yesterday.
Was that Fenway Park?
It was.
Bruins and Penguins. The Bruins got off the bus dressed in old school Red Sox uniforms. I loved it. Bruins 2-1 over Pittsburgh. Vegas and Philly won the other 2 NHL games yesterday. Action sports legend Ken Block died in a snowmobile accident in Utah yesterday. He was 55. And Mark, did you hear the Masters story from yesterday?
No.
Oh, it's awesome. So Scott Stallings has been checking his mailbox every day for like a week and a half. Like, where's my invitation to the Masters? All my friends they got theirs. Where's mine? Mark, the Masters sent the invitation to a different Scott Stallings.
That's spectacular.
Who A, also lives in Georgia, and B, whose wife is also named Jennifer. So the guy who got the invitation, obviously realizing it wasn't meant for him, did some research, found out there's Scott Stallings is ranked 54th in the world. I'll be damned. So he took to Twitter and said, hey, Scott Stallings, if you're out there, DM me. I think I've got something you'd be interested in.
That's fantastic.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, was
the Starting 5 every weekday morning at this time on Miller and Moulton.
But yeah, Mark, in the FGCU Central Arkansas game, FGCU's down 4. Central Arkansas misses a free throw. FGCU comes down. Caleb Cato, who's the Southwest Floridian, also playing his 5th year for the local school, he hits an off-balance 3, gets fouled, hits the free throw. They force overtime. They win it in OT. They didn't cover, but they won.
Big win there, though.
A 4-point play
Stealing
with
one.
less than 10 seconds to go. You got that right.
Flat out stealing one right there as we finish up the starting five. Pat Kirwan will be on the show today. We'll talk to Pat about everything that happened during the week and what happened last night as well, and what the league he thinks will do going forward with Bills and Bengals, as that's the news that we really anticipate to come out later today. Will it be a no contest, or will they try to somehow jam this game in? Miller and Moulton, we thank you for listening right here on the Florida Sports Network. Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com.
David Moulton for Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
Yeah. Hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're going to have to go around again.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Live is the official transportation provider of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Live is supported with the help of local partners like the Bayfront Inn. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn, something for everyone on 5th Avenue in downtown Naples. BayfrontInNaples.com. When you need a ride, book with Salt Live Transportation, 308-8686, or book on saltlivetransportation.com.
Miller and Moulton here for the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day.
Mark, remember Nick Charles, Fred Hickman, the CNN Play of the Day?
Yeah, CNN did a nightly sports show. That was a while ago.
Yes, it was. Just work with me. Everyone liked the pod, the Play of the Day. So how about we have the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day?
Sounds good. Fun. Smooth. Like Clutch Vodka.
Listen weekday mornings for the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day.
That's Clutch with a K.
Don't miss the Miami Dolphins watch party every Sunday at the Seaside Bar and Grill in Bonita Springs, presented by Clutch Vodka. The Seaside will be serving Clutch Vodka drinks, including the awesome Bloody Mary bar at the Seaside. If you can't be at Hard Rock Stadium, come have fun at the best place in town to watch the Dolphins and enjoy the best, clean, crisp, smoothest vodka. That's Clutch with a K. Miami Dolphins parties every week at the Seaside Bar and Grill on Old 41 in Bonita Springs, powered by Clutch Vodka.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network. Mello, no, we haven't, because we don't care.
No, Mello, we've not talked fantasy.
As I said, because we don't care. Not well, DC. Apparently was pretty much a wreck yesterday.
Well, yeah, RCB. I mean, RCB, the Bills are going to play the Patriots. I mean, that game's going to happen. It's just a matter of, are the Bills and the Bengals going to play? He released a statement, and Higgins, and he also put some stuff out there on Twitter. Do you have any text?
Not really.
Johnny, it's the last week of the regular season.
One minute.
I mean, unless there's another conclusion or solution that anybody has out there, to me, it seems as if they're going to be forced to play in the next 36 hours, or they're not going to play and it's going to be a no contest and they're only going to play 16 games.
10 seconds.
Not officially yet, Mr. Boutte, but we'll see.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Hour 2 of Miller and Moulton. Thanks so much for being with us. Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Pat Kirwan to join us 1 hour from now. I'm still in Cincinnati, planning on leaving on a previously scheduled flight this afternoon to return to the Sunshine State. But quite frankly, officially, everyone associated with the Bills-Bengals game is officially in a holding pattern. The game has not officially been rescheduled or canceled. And since the final week of the NFL season was to officially get underway today, what, if anything, if you're the league, are you going to do? By the way, for the record, the Bills released a statement in the early morning hours saying that 24-year-old safety Damar Hamlin is sedated and in critical condition. I'm not speculating, but many a healthcare professional and his agent took to Twitter and gave the indication that the expectation is he will survive. Not going to go beyond anything else. Mark, and then, by the way, 21,000, text in any and all thoughts on what it is that you witnessed last night, the way the broadcast crew handled it, the way the NFL handled it, what it is you'd like to see, if anything, going forward. I know the NFL's, not wanting to call this unprecedented. I think we're all hard pressed to find something else that compares, but okay. All right.
I think there is one thing that the NFL is going to have to answer for today is that 5-minute warning.
Well, they've already come out and said that it didn't come from them. So they're saying you want to blame, you blame elsewhere. That didn't come from us.
Well, that'll be interesting to see ultimately who gets the blame for that, because the NFL took all of it last night. And people were pretty harsh on the NFL for that cold way of thinking, if you will, of, hey, this guy nearly died, but we'll give you 5 minutes. Let's get back and play. And it certainly looked as if they were going to attempt to play. As you said, Joe Burrow started throwing the football around.
He did.
Diggs started giving that impassioned speech to his team, trying to get them back and ready to play. And it never happened, and rightfully so.
So, details, I guess, is it possible that the combatants, if you will, the officials and the head coaches came up with the 5 minutes and then reconsidered? I guess it's possible. Seems highly unlikely. Highly unlikely.
Because it seemed like the coaches were the ones that stopped it.
Correct. So, and the broadcast crew was just relaying the information that they were being given. And I think those of you that watched can come to that conclusion also, because the broadcast crew didn't do a ton of talking. I mean, they did not turn that into a sports talk show or a 24/7 cable channel either. There were long stretches of silence because there was no new information to give.
And you answered a question for me that I wondered, is that you were all privy to a lot more information than let out. And I mean, like, as you said, you knew the CPR, well, the CPR part of it.
Okay, we were privy, because actually we were not privy to any information that we didn't give out, but we were privy to the scene that we didn't at first fully convey. Because I got to be honest, it took all of us like 30 seconds to a minute. We had our cameras in fairly close on the scene, and it just took 30 seconds for me to kind of connect the dots and go, holy blank, they're doing CPR on him. This isn't, they're not wrestling there to make sure to position him on a board and keeping his neck steady. And no, that guy's doing CPR on him. And so I had never seen that before in any sporting event at any level, from junior varsity to the highest of professional ranks. I had never seen that before. So it took 30 seconds for my brain to compute it. But what do you do going forward? Jeff and Iowa brought up Hank Gathers. And that's why maybe to some the word unprecedented was not appropriate. There have been incidents in professional football where players were tragically paralyzed. Darryl Stingley, Dennis Byrd, Mike Utley. The Stingley situation, the most serious of the three. By the way, all those games continued, including the preseason game in which Stingley was paralyzed in the 70s. But if you're the NFL, what do you do?
Because ultimately, you'd really like this game to be played. This game it was and still is a really important football game for a lot of other reasons.
Yeah, the standings. No doubt. Right. I mean, when you get back to, okay, we got to run the league, well, what do? We play games. We keep score. Winners, losers, the occasional tie. And yeah, there's a little bit riding on the final 7 days of the season. The 1, the 2, and the 3 seed. Much easier to get to the Super Bowl if you A, have a bye, B, have home field advantage, C, only have to play the winner of 2 versus 3, not have to play both.
And if there are still 1 seeds out there for the taking, it affects how teams play the final week, which, we've talked about how the Dolphins are affected by how hard the Bills have to play the Patriots. And if you're just tuning in, we are forwarding this. This is just the football side of this. We've been talking about the human side for the last 70 minutes, and we'll continue to.
And there are many people that, weren't with us last hour. So there's a lot of ground that we covered last hour that maybe we should, talk about again. And yes, there is one other person there's one person, I should say, not other. There is one player who died playing in an NFL game. Chuck Hughes was his name. He was a wide receiver out of UTEP. He played for the Detroit Lions. If you go to Ford Field and you see number 85, that is in honor of Chuck Hughes. Hughes suffered a heart attack in the final minute of a game at Tiger Stadium between the Bears and the Lions. Hughes collapsed right next to Dick Butkus. It was found out afterwards that he did not die from a football play or injury. He had 80% blockage in one of his arteries. And he had a condition, family history of, heart disease, etc. But he died of a heart attack while playing. People have brought up boxing has had deaths before. I mean, Mark, you and I both old enough to watch live on CBS on, I believe, a Saturday afternoon, Tim Ryan, Gil Clancy broadcasting Ray Boom Boom Mancini and Dooku Kim. 15 rounds, and in the 14th round, Mancini knocked him out, and Dooku Kim didn't survive. And that's why we don't have 15-round fights anymore. We have 12.
We had the incident with, and his name escapes me, the hockey player for Edmonton that got cut. Well, there's that one, Malarchuk, that got cut. Then the one recently that just happened. That game, he got right to the locker room, and it was a scary situation, but the game went on.
Was it the St. Louis Blue last year or the year before in which he, on the bench, suffered, and they had to essentially revive him?
Well, there's that too.
Chris Pronger, a Hall of Fame defenseman, took a slap shot to the heart early in his career. Suffered a similar type of situation on the ice. He would return and played 12 more years. So 24-year-old DeMar Hamlin right now sedated in critical condition. If there is a good part to this story, he has a Chasing M's Foundation. Wants to raise money for a toy drive for kids. His goal was $5,000. As of this morning, it had raised $3 million.
Obviously secondary to his health, but as David mentioned, he's sedated. He's in critical condition. The team is back in Buffalo. They flew home last night, which, sure, they could get back on a plane and play today, but if you're trying to advance this and saying what's next, it seems, to me at least, unlikely that they're going to play football today, David.
Correct. It seems unlikely. If I was a betting man, I would bet that the game is declared a no contest and that the league moves forward. Now, that will cause a significant ripple in the standings. It would mean that the Bills cannot be the 1 seed unless Kansas City loses this week, because Kansas City can put 14-3 on the board, and Buffalo now could only put 13-3 on the board. It also means Baltimore cannot catch Cincinnati in the North, because Cincinnati, even if they were to lose to Baltimore this coming Sunday, Cincinnati's worst they could be is 11-5, and the best Baltimore could now be is 11-6. And if the Bills have, quote unquote, nothing to play for Sunday, since the Chiefs play Saturday, do the Bills mail one in against the Patriots, who win and they're in?
Golfers, are you bored of the same old driving range warm-up routine that's not getting you the results that you want on the course? Power up your golf swing by adding resistance bands to your range sessions with the Orange Whip Golf's Power Strap Kit. Featuring band attachments to your feet and hips, Power Strap resistance training will boost clubhead speed, increase power, improve flexibility, all with just a few swings. Buy a Power Strap Kit today. Go to orangewhipgolf.com and use code Miller10 to receive an additional 10% off the already great price of $119.
Yeah. Hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're gonna have to go around and get it.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Live is the official transportation provider of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Live is supported with the help of local partners like the Bayfront Inn. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn, something for everyone on 5th Avenue in downtown Naples. BayfrontInNaples.com. When you need a ride, book with Salt Live Transportation, 308-8686, or book on saltlivetransportation.com.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com. You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network. Apparently, Georgia's now trying to get sports betting on their ballot in 2024. They may beat Florida to the punch.
Yeah. So if DeSantis will admit defeat, he could restructure the bill right now and have it done by the summer. It's a lot of money they are losing. A lot of money.
One minute.
You have something?
I don't. I was gonna get the Donovan Mitchell 71-point game, but that seems really irrelevant right now.
Well, we got it. Are we not going to do a play of the day? Are you?
Well, we always do. But
We always do, but it's a sponsored element, Felipe.
Okay. That junior hockey championship goal. That sounds interesting.
I doubt you can find it. Connor Bedard's the kid's name. Get the Mitchell. People will know what that is. The put back to force overtime would probably be the one worth getting.
Here we go.
Thanks for listening. And now, more of Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
21 minutes past the hour, top of the morning to you. Miller and Moulton, Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Pat Kirwan to join us, coming up at the top of the hour. I'm in Cincinnati, planning on going home this afternoon, but there's always the chance the Bills and the Bengals could be rescheduled. Right now, no official word from the NFL as to the fate of the Bills-Bengals game, which I'm guessing most of you, if not all of you who are listening, realize was stopped 9 minutes in. 24-year-old Bills safety Damar Hamlin officially listed this morning in critical condition, still sedated, breathing. There was a time last night when reports were that he had a pulse but was not breathing on his own. The Bills released a statement in the early morning hours saying that Hamlin did, in fact, go into cardiac arrest on the field. His heartbeat was restored on the field. Mark, I was at an auto race, a NASCAR race, and I believe it was 91 at Watkins Glen, and J.D. McDuffie died. The track was a little different then than it was now. It used to be a long back straightaway, and you reached your highest, your fastest speed, and then you had to abruptly brake unbelievably hard and make one hairpin turn and then go back up the hill. And it's why, for those that watch NASCAR now, in the middle of that long back straight at Watkins Glen, they've got a bit of a, chicane, if you will, a bit of a, bunch of turns, because they want to slow him down. And that's because J.D. McDuffie's brakes failed him, and he was going at top speed, and his brakes failed, and he went off the course and crashed and died. And I was there. And I have to admit, Mark, that there was a moment last night in the booth where I was thinking the worst. And
I don't know how you couldn't, given what was going on the field. given in the expressions by the players who are right there, the frantic CPR that was going on. I don't know how. I mean, I thought the worst sitting at home. I don't know how you couldn't think the worst sitting in the booth. I really don't, David.
It was the length of time that CPR was being administered that, really concerned me. 99% of us who are listening are not doctors and are not in the health, professional field. But I mean, it was 10 plus minutes of CPR that was being administered. And I think one can assume they don't administer CPR unless you're not breathing. So, that I was scared for the young man. I really was. And I was fearful and very thankful that the worst case scenario did not play itself out. But there seems to be, from the statement that the Bills, not anything that was said by the broadcasters or anything like that, but from the statement from the Bills in the early morning hours this morning, he suffered cardiac arrest and his heartbeat was restored on the field. Translation, they saved his life.
And if you think about so many different injuries we've had where there's fear of back injuries or neck injuries, what's the one thing we see a lot of players do when they're coming off the field? We see them reach up and give us a thumbs up, letting their teammates, their opposition, the fans know, hey, I'm all right. Obviously, there was none of that last night. He leaves in that ambulance and everybody is thinking the worst.
There was a touching moment, and I don't think it was conveyed on the TV screen. So when the coaches, seemingly, that's what it appeared, when the coaches decided, we're not playing. Let's go back to our respective locker rooms. The Bengals left first. The Bills moved more slowly. And the Bengals were off the field. And the Bills now are walking diagonally from the far sideline. For those sitting at home, the Bills were on the far sideline of your TV screen. And they are walking towards the near left corner is how they are getting. The Bengals went off to the near right corner of your TV screen. The Bills walked diagonally across the field to the near left corner of your TV screen to head to the locker room. And as they were walking off the field, the Bengals fans stood and applauded. I thought it was touching. I thought it was like, wow, good for you guys to be somewhat aware of the situation because of your cell phones and to have the humanity that you had there. And I'm sure the Bills players were numb and probably didn't even hear it, but I have to admit I was touched by it.
Yeah, you're right. And Joe pointed out the Bengals fans were as classy as they could have been throughout this whole thing because information probably was getting to them at some rate. Everybody's got a cell phone and everybody's picking up on what's going on. But remember, what crowds can do and how they can act. So I think that the Bengals crowd was terrific last night with their demeanor and how they handled, remember, they all paid their money. They were all fired up. They wanted to see a game, and they're getting bits and pieces of information and still acting with a little bit of dignity as this was going on. And I think that needs to be applauded.
So still waiting official word from the NFL as to, I can just relate to you as of 7 minutes ago, I received an email from ESPN saying no official word from the NFL yet. So there you have it. So will the game be replayed? Will it be replayed later today? That seems highly unlikely later today. Is it possible they could play tomorrow and then play Sunday? Well, isn't that the same timeline as playing a Sunday game and then coming back and playing Thursday night football? I mean, help me out here, isn't it? I mean,
It
it's
is.
the same, 3 full days off in between and playing 2 games. So we'll see.
We do this thing called a Clutch Vodka Play of the Day, although it doesn't seem as appropriate today. I think we could, and I think Brian in our Twitch chat room, actually a Facebook chat room, since we get all of them from all the social media sites, might be right on with what the play of the day is. And we've already mentioned it. Instead of having to run a highlight and try to transition awkwardly from what is a story that hopefully won't turn too tragic, but what could have been a tragic story, to some sort of play, whether it's Donovan Mitchell or whatever, or the Tulane game, or the scoop and score with Mississippi State. I think Brian heads it up that the play of the day is really fans raising over $3 million for Damar Hamlin's charity overnight.
Chasing M is his foundation. It's buy toys for needy kids. He was hoping to raise $5,000. As of this morning, people from all over the country, and this is where social media and the internet can actually do some good. Once the word got out, well, people made donations. And yes, that's right. $5,000 goal has been surpassed to the tune of $3 million.
So when he gets up and is able to see that, I'm sure he will be a happy camper of all the donations that were given towards him in this very gruesome scene that we all witnessed play out last night on Monday Night Football. Miller and Moulton, Pat Kirwan, still 30 minutes away. Where else but right here on the Florida Sports Network. Moulton here for the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day.
Mark, remember Nick Charles, Fred Hickman, the CNN Play of the Day?
Yeah, CNN did a nightly sports show. That was a while ago.
Yes, it was. Just work with me. Everyone liked the pod, the Play of the Day. So how about we have the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day?
Sounds good. Fun. Smooth. Like Clutch Vodka.
Listen weekday mornings for the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day.
That's Clutch with a K.
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
Don't miss the Miami Dolphins watch party every Sunday at the Seaside Bar and Grill in Bonita Springs. Presented by Clutch Vodka. The Seaside will be serving Clutch Vodka drinks, including the awesome Bloody Mary bar at the Seaside. If you can't be at Hard Rock Stadium, come have fun at the best place in town to watch the Dolphins and enjoy the best, clean, crisp, smoothest vodka. That's Clutch with a K. Miami Dolphins parties every week at the Seaside Bar and Grill on Old 41 in Bonita Springs. Powered by Clutch Vodka.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network. So, Pro Football Talk put out a tweet. NFL Executive and VP Football Operations Troy Vincent says on a conference call that there was never a plan to let players have a five minute to warm up and continue tonight. I'm not sure where that came from, Vincent said. Kyle Koster from the Big Lead says, pretty curious how this information made its way to the broadcast then. One would expect some miscommunication given the unprecedented nature of what happened, but that is very specific. Had to come from somewhere. ESPN Deportes, and Westwood One, all mentioning the 5-minute warm-up, makes this even more dubious. So it wasn't, I mean, it's not just Joe, you know what I mean? So that, I mean, the fact that it made it to Westwood 1, which is not even an ESPN entity.
Don't get me started. Well, Paper City. Okay, let's talk reality. He's taken to a level 1 trauma center. All right. His mom's with him. A couple of family members are with him. And one of his 2 agents was with him. I mean, what I was led to believe is there are some members of the Bills team and organization that remained in Cincinnati. The majority of the team hopped on a plane and went home. You can't have 100 people walking around, the trauma center.
$30.
What, Adam?
Adam, I would guess none. Also, I don't know why you mentioned the Steelers. Cincinnati plays the Ravens. The Bills play the Patriots. But
10 seconds.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network.
22 minutes before the hour, Miller and Moulton, Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. I'm in Cincinnati, still awaiting official word from the National Football League as to what, if anything, is to be decided about the Bills-Bengals game, suspended 9 minutes in. Pat Kirwan will join us at the top of the hour. Mark, I know I asked this question of you earlier. What would you do? There seems to be 3 options. The third will be the most extreme, but I'll present them to you. One is you just declare the game a no contest. and you move forward. Remember, there's no Thursday night football, so there's a doubleheader scheduled on Saturday, and then the league just moves forward. Everybody regroups. We move on. The Bills and the Bengals will only play 16 games this year. Mark, it's kind of like in Major League Baseball. At the end of a season, sometimes you've got teams that play 162 games and some that play 160 and 161.
Right.
And your winning percentage is what your winning percentage is.
That very rarely happens with teams at the top, though, in baseball.
No doubt. Those games end up being made up. So you declare it a no contest and you move on. You let the standings chips fall where the standing chips may, in which in all likelihood it will come back to haunt Buffalo and could actually work to Cincinnati's favor, but it also has repercussions down the line. Like, for example, say it's a no contest. Well, Saturday at 4:30, the Chiefs play the Raiders. If the Chiefs win, they would clinch the 1 seed before the Bills are scheduled to play the Patriots at 1 o'clock on Sunday. Hence, the Bills would have nothing to play for and are not getting a first-round bye. Therefore, would they play their regulars against the Patriots? Probably not. Well, it's a big game because New England with a win makes the playoffs at the expense of the Dolphins, Steelers, and even potentially the Jags. But we're just talking wins and losses and standings here. B, do you reschedule this game either tonight or tomorrow?
And you said there was a third option.
The third option is it possible you push the entire league back a week?
No.
And okay, hold on. I just want to present it so that the Bills and the Bengals play their game out this weekend. And then, because remember, we do have the 2 weeks in between conference championship game and the Super Bowl. So you actually, if you needed to, have a week to play with. But that is obviously the most radical.
I think if you can't play the game today, David, and I know you could conceivably play it tomorrow and it's the same amount of time from a Sunday to a Thursday. I get it. I just think if you can't get the game in today, I don't think they're going to play the game. That's what I think is going to happen. And I don't think they're going to play the game today. I think this is going to be a no contest.
I do as well. What would you do if you were the league? And once again, think about it. We have Sunday football every week. And most weeks we have then Thursday football. Not every case. Sometimes teams play Thursday and they have the bye. But many times, first off, we have a triple header on Thanksgiving. None of those 6 teams had Sunday off. Now, maybe a couple of them may have played the Thursday before, but you know what I'm getting at. Play Sunday, have 3 full days off, play on Thursday. If you were to play Wednesday, you could then have 3 full days off and play on Sunday. It's the same as the Sunday-Thursday schedule.
I'd be working really hard with Buffalo to try to play the game today. I would. From a pure football standpoint, taking the emotion out of what happened, the injury, if I'm running this league, I would be trying to figure out a way to play this game today.
Would you, if you're the league, put it in the hands of the teams, or would you say, okay, here's how it's going to go? You're playing at 1 o'clock Wednesday, or you're playing at 8 o'clock Tuesday. If you're the league, are you dictating here, or are you trying to build a consensus?
I'm trying to build a consensus.
And
I don't want to dictate here. I don't want that.
Okay. And if the Bills and the Bengals, say to you, I don't know what to tell you, Raj. We ain't playing. Because, listen, I don't want to be overly dramatic here, but the league wanted to play the Sunday after September 11th, and the New York Giants told them to shove it. In no uncertain terms, they said, well, we ain't playing. You can do whatever you want. If you count it as a forfeit, don't care. We ain't playing. And once the Giants said that, the Jets said, well, we ain't playing then either because we don't want to play. And once 2 of the 30 teams said we ain't playing, the league said, I guess we're not going to play. Well, this would be the exact same scenario. If 2 of the 30 go, we ain't playing, they going to play?
And I don't think the league would push back the entire league schedule for one game. I don't.
Well, they certainly don't want to, obviously. It's 15 other games or 14 other games.
But it's not just that. I think, the networks wouldn't want this to drag on anymore. I mean, there's...
Oh, no. I mean, let's be brutally honest. This is a multi-billion-dollar business. I mean, that's what this is.
And at some point, that takes over.
Yeah. And by some point, it's probably 8 a.m. Yes. But I ask everybody, if it's real easy to come down on Goodell in the league. I mean, it is. And there are times they certainly deserve it. But if you're the league here, what do? I would declare it a no contest. I would move on. I'd put it this way, Mark. I would say to the teams, I'm going to declare it a no contest and move on. Unless you both say to us, no, we want to play the game. We just need 24 hours to regroup, at which point we're playing the game Wednesday.
And I do like I never, because it was Wednesday and it's Monday Night Football, and I never really gave it an ounce of thought. The Wednesday at 1 or 3 or 4 o'clock, something that's not, and I still think 1's the right answer if you're going to do it on Wednesday. You want to give these guys as much time as you can to recover for their Sunday games. Maybe 4:25 on Wednesday, if you know what I mean. But I, in my head, and tell you, for whatever reason, David, in my head, I had just 8 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 8 o'clock.
Right. If I was Roger Goodell, that's what I would do. I would call up both teams and I would say, listen, I'm going to declare it a no contest unless you want to play Wednesday. If you want to play, and just so you know, if I declare it a no contest, it means you two will only play 16 games. Everyone else will play 17. However, the standings fall, the standings fall. Okay? This is merely a game. I have no problem declaring it a no contest, being sympathetic, and we'll resume this weekend. But if after 24 hours to regroup, you're like, no, we want to play, then we'll play this sucker Wednesday. Yay, and I'll let you two teams vote. I'll give you till, 3 o'clock today to decide. Because let's face facts, then Buffalo, if you want to play, we got to make the plans and get you in and the whole deal.
Yeah, and it's probably more like 10 or noon, but I know what you're saying. And
well, you're right. Give the team the time to actually get in and vote, talk about it, vote, the whole deal. I'll give you till 3 o'clock because don't laugh. I mean, this is stuff that nobody thinks of and nobody cares of. But those hotel rooms, yeah, they're all released. I mean, don't laugh. They then have to, the league's got to get on the phone and the traveling secretary and the whole deal. Although maybe they don't even, who knows, Mark? Maybe it's a business trip for Buffalo. Maybe Buffalo boards the plane in the morning, lands, buses to the stadium, plays, buses back, and flies home. Okay, but anyway, I'll give you till 3 o'clock today.
Very Friday Night Lights of you with that type of schedule there. I like it.
Thank you. But if I was Goodell, that's what I would do.
And there's part of me that thinks Buffalo would play, if it was put to them, because the 1 seed's still on the line and they've had time to reflect and they're going to know more about their teammate by this point. I think Buffalo would play.
Also, for whatever it's worth, both teams are home for the final game of the year. Like Cincinnati doesn't have to go anywhere. They're home for Buffalo. They're home for Baltimore. Buffalo, it's a short trip to Cincinnati. They're home for the Patriots. Both teams are scheduled to play Sunday.
Regardless of whether they're the 1, 2, or 3, they will all host playoff games. I guess in the case if there is a chance that Cincinnati could lose the division if they lose this game and then lose to Baltimore.
Correct.
So that's actually not true.
I can understand the Bills not wanting to return to the field and play last night. I can understand the Bills not in any shape to play today. If I was Goodell, I would give them the chance. You want to play this game? We can play it as late as Wednesday. But if no, I'm fine with that. Just know I can't declare a winner and a loser. I can't give it a tie. It's a no contest. The game doesn't get played. We all understand why. Good luck Sunday against New England. Just know that the final standings are the final standings. And if that means that the Chiefs post 14-3 and all you can post is 13-3, well, you're the 2 seed. And in the grand scheme of things, it's not a big deal, but I'm just letting you know as a league, we have to move on. Hope you understand. Let me know your decision by 3:00.
Besides the league, we really want to start moving forward because they're just going to digging on this 5-minute warning that we gave and that ESPN Deportes, and Westwood One all talked about, but we're all denying today. So we really need to move this forward because that 5-minute window is making us look pretty bad right now. What would you do? 21,000 is the text line. 21000. How would you sort this out if you were the league?
Also, if you're the league, do you just rule? I mean, you have the authority. You can force both teams to play. You can also just say, this is a no contest. And the Bills could raise their hand and say, well, no, we'd be willing to play Wednesday. And you go, nah, sorry, we're moving on. I would think the league would not do that. Reportedly last night, the league was in consultation with the NFLPA as to whether to resume the game or not. It's difficult for me to imagine the game resumes tonight, considering the Bills are in Buffalo right now.
But Wednesday afternoon.
But don't laugh, okay, from a network standpoint, from the equipment, never mind the personnel, okay, believe me, the network is really kind of like, hey, got to let us know, what's going on. I got 100 people, hotel rooms, I got equipment. I got to get to Jacksonville and or Vegas. What are we doing here? And that enters the equation. It's why, I don't want to say I'm 100% surprised that an official decision has not been reached as of 7:52 a.m., but I'm a little surprised.
And I'll be very surprised if by 9 a.m. Eastern we don't have a decision.
Or at least by 9 a.m. the word's out going, we're going to let the Bills and Bengals decide. And if they want to play, we play tomorrow.
Pat Kirwan coming up in 8-9 minutes time. Your thoughts on the text line. 21,000 is the number. 21000. Your thoughts on what they should do with this game, what you would do if you were the one in charge of the National Football League, and how you would settle an unprecedented story in the National Football League.
Albar in our Twitch chat room says you play the game either tonight or tomorrow. All right. Paper City Gamer says, I need to get more information as to DeMar Hamlin's condition. Is there any way that you can assure me essentially that he's going to survive this? Can you tell me that for sure?
Miller and Moulton. Pat Kirwan from NFL Radio is next right here on the Florida Sports Network.
David Moulton for Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth, that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
Don't miss the Miami Dolphins watch party every Sunday at the Seaside Bar and Grill in Bonita Springs. Presented by Clutch Vodka. The Seaside will be serving Clutch Vodka drinks, including the awesome Bloody Mary bar at the Seaside. If you can't be at Hard Rock Stadium, come have fun at the best place in town to watch the Dolphins and enjoy the best, clean, crisp, smoothest vodka. That's Clutch with a K. Miami Dolphins parties every week at the Seaside Bar and Grill on Old 41 in Bonita Springs. Powered by Clutch Vodka.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again.
Yeah. Hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're going to have to go around and get it.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Live is the official transportation provider of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Live is supported with the help of local partners like the Bayfront Inn. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn, something for everyone on 5th Avenue in downtown Naples. BayfrontInNaples.com. When you need a ride, book with Salt Live Transportation, 308-8686, or book on saltlivetransportation.com.
Miller and Moulton here for the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day.
Mark, remember Nick Charles, Fred Hickman, the CNN Play of the Day?
Yeah, CNN did a nightly sports show. That was a while ago.
Yes, it was. Just work with me. Everyone liked the pod, the Play of the Day. So how about we have the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day?
Sounds good. Fun. Smooth. Like Clutch Vodka.
Listen weekday mornings for the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day.
That's Clutch with a K. Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com. You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Just to answer Miller and Moulton fan in the Twitch chat room, as of 36 minutes ago, ESPN has not gotten official word from the National Football League. So believe me, we're all, I know Joe's two spotters are at the airport right now. So it'll be interesting if things get changed.
Morning, Pat. Pat? Uh-oh. Maybe he set the phone down.
Well, thank you, JB Vike. For,
Pat,
much
you're on mute. Is that on purpose?
Yes, we have worked all through the holidays because we thought the sports world dictated it. Looking around, most people did not.
Pat, for whatever reason, if you're there, your mic is not connected either. I know your camera's not, which is fine, but your mic is on mute on your end. I cannot unmute your mic.
You got 2 minutes.
Can you hear me?
Now I can. There you
There
are.
you go.
I was in the middle of sending you a text. I couldn't sure if you could hear what I was saying. Good
I
morning,
could.
Pat.
Good morning. I could hear you the whole time, but just
I figured as much.
It is what it is. I'm sitting in my car at the dentist office, so a little different.
Obviously, in no hurry to go in.
I'd like to go over and get it over with, but I had to move. She moved it to 8:30, and I said, okay, I'll do the show right here, so when I get off, I can go right inside. Okay, I got a lot of junk in this car, but we'll just get it all figured out now.
Anything major? You're going to be able to do a show?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's all good. I said, if you needed a place to stay, David, I know you're flying in for a medical thing, but stay with me. I don't care. That'd be great. Okay. I'm here. I've been on, so I was listening to you guys for the last 15 minutes or so. I was really just making sure everything worked in the car as I sit here in the car in the parking lot.
15 seconds.
15 seconds. Now I'm nervous. I got to entertain myself somehow. My dentist just walked by.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. It's that day and time where Pat Kirwan joins us for the first time this week. He's also joining us for the first time this year. Pat, with NFL Radio's Moving the Chain, CBS's NFL Today show, joining us courtesy of Pinchers, Tampa, Key West, over a dozen locations in between. Pinchers, because you can't fake fresh. A belated Happy New Year, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Happy New Year to you guys. And, we're the hot story of the day and what's going on. And also Week 18 in the playoffs are here and all that stuff. So there's a lot of football to talk about.
Well, no doubt. Let's start with Monday night last night. Just, Pat, you are as close to the league office as anybody we know. We've kind of laid out a couple of different scenarios, perhaps a no contest. Perhaps they play today or tomorrow. David even suggested maybe they, push back the playoffs. What, if anything, do you think happens with this Buffalo-Cincinnati game?
There's a lot of scenarios. I heard some of the things you guys were talking about. I don't think you should be playing the game on Wednesday. I think that's ridiculous. But there's a lot of logistics here, and I just think that is not really the right thing. And then to turn around and play a Week 18 game 4 days later. I know we play Sunday to Thursday, but I personally just think they should. This is me now talking. Dawn Aponte worked for me, so I know Dawn very well, and I'm sure they're going to have a statement by 9 o'clock this morning. They don't give a damn about spotters and everything else. This is a whole bigger problem than that. So I personally, if it was me, because I lived through this with Dennis Byrd, he was broken neck, paralyzed on the field. Everyone was as shaken during ours as I saw the players last night. And what did we do? We waited about a half hour when we played. And what I found out was a lot of guys emotionally couldn't handle it. They were not ready to play football. And it was in retrospect, I would have never done that again. So I hope someone remembers that whole thing. And I hope someone's reflecting on that. Dawn Aponte was with me at the Jets when Dennis had that problem. And she remembers, I'm sure, how it was. So here's what I would do.
Okay, if I could just stop you for 1 second. For those that saw the video last night, there was McDermott and Zach Taylor, and they were talking in the bowels of the stadium. All right. There was a woman who had a phone and was talking into it and was handing the phone to both coaches and relaying information to them. That was Dawn Aponte. Continue, Pat.
Yeah, so Dawn has been around it. So, I'm sure she was talking to Roger as much as anyone else, and they probably had a conference call. But so she was the person on deck, really, to at least provide the most current information of what was going to. Here's what I would say: don't play the game. There's a lot of reasons not to. Wednesday's a bad idea. Today's not happening. Buffalo, all that business. And I would just, and I hate to say this because I know David's not going to agree with me, but I don't care. I would leave Buffalo as the 1 seed. Kansas City, you're the 2. You already lost to those guys. So calm down. You're the 2 seed. Cincinnati's the 3 seed. And let's play next weekend and get ready for the playoffs. That's what I would do. Because that solves everything. And the league should make, I hope they do, make that statement. We beat you head to head. We're not going to play this game. Here's why. Bang, bang, bang. And let's go. Let's finish the season and go to the playoffs on schedule.
So if you're the league, and I will say this, by the way, I actually think there's a chance between Clark Hunt, the owner, and Andy Reid, the coach. I actually think a resolution with the Chiefs could be worked out. I actually do. Andy Reid is a very religious man. Okay. Clark Hunt is one of the elite of the owners.
He's a pillar of the league.
Yes. I actually think the humanity of the Chiefs organization and of the brotherhood of players realizing that this is unique to say the least. I actually think a scenario like that could be agreed to in which the Chiefs could essentially, Pat, say, okay, here's the deal. If we're tied in the loss column, the Bills win the tiebreaker. How about that?
I don't need any ifs. I beat you head to head. We can't play this on Wednesday.
No. But this game doesn't take place. But that in theory, if the Chiefs were to win Saturday and the Bills were to lose Sunday, the Bills then have 4 losses and the Chiefs have 3.
Fair.
In that situation only, the Chiefs are the 1. But if the Bills win Sunday, they're the 1.
Thank you. That's exactly how it should go down. And it makes the most sense. And I'm telling you, what no one's discussing because they're not part of this, but I was in that locker room with Dennis Byrd. I saw Jeff Lagerman. I saw Marvin Washington. Those were his closest friends. They could not function. You need a time to recover yourself from what you witnessed. And, you know, there's going to be guys that are going to think, I don't want to play football anymore. That's what happens. And so you have to give them time to heal. And that whole thing about they're going to warm up in 5 minutes, that never happened. Now, someone might have said how much time you're going to need in there, but there's a lot of people trying to figure out things. But at the end of the day, they were never going to put them back out there. So to me, I like David's ending to that. And it's pretty simple. Buffalo wins next Sunday. They're the 1. Let's move on.
It does help rectify a lot of other things because there are the 6 and 7 seeds. There are other games that are going to happen. It would affect, what do you do then? So does Cincinnati then just win the division in your eyes, Pat?
Yeah. Now let them play Sunday. It's the same thing. And I don't think, and this is an extension of David's point. He was very kind to reflect on how Kansas City would see this. But there's other teams that have to see it the same way because it can happen to them. Baltimore, just stay where you are and let's go. And they may not do that. But I promise you, I'm making a call after this show to remind someone in that office of what our players looked like when Dennis was on the field paralyzed. And that we should not have kept playing, but we did. Because unless you've been around that, you don't really understand the ripple effect to all the other players.
He's Pat Kirwan, NFL Radio's Moving the Chains. This is 3 to 7 Monday through Friday and 2 to 5 on Saturdays while the games are being played. He's also part of CBS's NFL Today show, and he joins us twice a week during the season, courtesy of Pinchers from Tampa to Key West, over a dozen locations in between Pinchers, because you can't fake fresh. Pat, that was about 30 years ago, right? Dennis Byrd?
Yeah.
Was the team, in your estimation, right, emotionally ready to play the following week?
Yes. The next week we went to Buffalo and beat them. the guys started to think about, now Dennis was in the hospital and stabilized and paralyzed. We all had a chance to go visit with Dennis. We talked to Dennis. Dennis was wishing everyone to go out there and play for themselves and for him. Mr. Hess was spending the overnights in the hospital with him. So they were able to emotionally harness themselves 7 days later.
And that'll be the case and Pat, I know obviously it's tougher on the Bills because it's their teammate and all of the things that go along with that. I don't know if you recall the opposition. I would think for the Bengals, it's going to be a similar thing. No matter, who you are, if you're on the field when that happens, it's going to have an effect on you.
Everybody. It affects everyone. And, in our case, Dennis was injured by his own teammate, Scott Mercereau. Dave Craig was the quarterback. They were coming from opposite sides. At the very last second, Craig stepped up and Dennis and Scott collided. Scott was the guy I worried about the most. The receiver's going to look at that video 1,000 times. He's going to see him, and he did what he's supposed to. He dropped his shoulder, and he connected with his chest. But I'm just telling you, it's going to take a week for these players to finally get to the point where they can play football. And people that don't see that component to this are making a big mistake. They're not animals. Don't send them on a field tomorrow to play a football game so the schedule sets up perfect. Let's have some humanity and common sense.
Pat, do you think the Chiefs would agree? Also, because in theory, the Ravens have to agree to it too. If we go forward with this being a no contest, then the Bengals have won the North.
Yeah,
okay, so
Steve Bisciotti's Steve Bisciotti's terrific. Do you know how they feel in Kansas City? And it's not just Andy, it's an owner's decision. And Clark, he's one of the, as I said, one of the pillars of the league. It makes the most sense to protect the players so they can be in a proper state of mind to play, and it makes the most sense for the league. So I hope they do that. I've already had one conversation with someone who's very influential, and I said, this is just my thought. Try to think, if it's your thought, bring it to the table.
And Pat, a lot being made about the 5-minute warning. You'd think that never happened.
No, I think someone always says stuff like that. Are they coming back out? How long do you think you're going to need? That doesn't have anything to do with people who make decisions. That's just like, should we unlock the locker room door? What do you need in there? Could you need 5 minutes? All those things can be said by people that are not decision makers.
I will say this, though, that the word was conveyed. I mean, clearly ESPN and Westwood One did not make up information. They were given that
I'm
information.
sure they didn't make it
right.
up.
No. And I will say that had to have been a thing on the field, Pat, for this reason. Joe Burrow started throwing warm-up passes. And now it was obvious to us also that most everyone was not warming up. And I believe Joe or Troy, one of them pointed out, we've been told there's a 5-minute warm-up period here, and the Bills are just standing around. Okay.
We never went to the locker room. A lot of things were said on our field that day. We never went to the locker room. They just took a knee on the sideline, said their prayers, and waited for someone to say go. We should have never have done that. We did. And these guys were smart enough to retreat to the locker room where Roger Goodell and Troy and DeMaris could now have an intelligent conversation. So all that nonsense, do you think Roger Goodell said, hey, can you be ready in 5 minutes? Do you think he said it? Of course not.
Miller and Moulton. He's Pat Kirwan. NFL Radio's Moving the Chain, CBS Sports NFL Today Show. More with Pat on the other side of the Florida Sports Network.
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
Yeah. Hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're gonna have to go around and get it.
You good, David?
If you have the
Yeah,
opportunity to
that I
avoid all
am.
this,
You can stay
I,
over if you want to.
Salt
You're not
Life
interfering.
is
We
the
get plenty of rooms.
transportation provider
Oh,
of
no.
Miller and Moulton Morning Show.
No,
making your
believe it or
trip
not,
to
I'm
and from
fine.
the airport seamless and
it's a
stress-free.
short flight
Salt
home
Life is supported with the help of
today,
local
and,
partners like the Bayfront Inn. Gather
no, I'll
your
drive
family and
down
friends and enjoy
Wednesday.
a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or
The
deck boat.
hotel room
If
is
you
very
prefer to
convenient.
explore the waterways without a
It'll be
motor, the
fine.
Bayfront has
Okay,
canoes, stand boards,
But
and
in the
kayaks.
future,
At
I'll
the end
keep
of your
that in
journey,
mind.
enjoy lunch or dinner at the
Absolutely.
Bamboo Tropical Bar and
But the other
Grill.
thing
The
is,
Bayfront Inn, something for everyone on Fifth Avenue in downtown Naples.
there's no reason to pay
BayfrontInNaples.com. When you
$15
need a ride, book
to
with
park
Salt
your
Life
car.
Transportation,
You know where
308-8686,
Ford's garage is?
or book on
Yeah, I was going to either park at
saltlifetransportation.com.
Ford's or I was just going to park it and walk. Yeah.
No.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're
I'll
looking
meet you
for a
at
golf
Ford's.
cart, an e-bike, or an
I'll tell you
e-motorcycle,
where.
go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com. You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
So my brother Jimmy and Steve are coming to the game with me. I've met Mark there too. So when the last lane at Ford's garage in the parking lot in front of the place, David,
Mm-hmm.
the last lane before you get, as you're heading towards the arena, just park in that lane. Steve will be standing there too. I'll pick both of you up.
Okay.
It's my brother Jim's first day out since his knee replacement.
I can't
Anyway,
even. Oh, go
I
ahead.
hope what I was saying was okay by you guys, but
Absolutely.
I can't even imagine what T. Higgins is going through right now.
Hey. The reality is everyone who plays football knows what the probabilities and the possibilities are, and they play anyway. It's what the game is, unfortunately. But that hit that he was involved, that tackle, that happens 75 times a game. We had him at the Senior Bowl. He's a great kid too.
Hamlin.
Yeah.
Yeah, Narduzzi raved about him 2 years ago.
Yeah. He's really good. And a great kid. What else is on your minds, men?
I'm just trying to get out of here.
Oh, yeah. No. So my wife's very closest friend where we live, she's a Cincinnati woman. Her daughter works as a nurse in the emergency room at that hospital. And
wow.
They put him on a ventilator as soon as they got there, from what I was told.
Yeah. I don't know if he's technically his agent. He has two people who did the speaking for him. One was his quote unquote agent. The other was like business advisor. The business advisor was the one that took to Twitter first and most frequently, a younger guy. And he was relaying medical stuff, if you will.
Well, It's amazing. As soon as he was laying on the field, my brain went straight back to Dennis, and I remembered it like it was yesterday, every little piece of it. And Dennis died. Did you know that? He finally got to the point where he could walk. He used to say to me, I called him one day, I said, "How you doing, Dennis?" Because he was getting ready to coach high school football. And he goes, "Well, Pat, I used to be a 275-pound man that could bench 500. He goes, now I'm a 500-pound man who can't bench 275. He got killed in a head-on car crash.
6 years ago.
Yeah. After he had overcome everything, was coaching high school football, tickled to death about life. Very Christian guy. Yeah. But Mr. Hess he was old then. He would go to the hospital at midnight and stay there till 4 in the morning with him. Dennis had no insurance. These guys.
So the league doesn't provide insurance?
No, you have to have your own insurance. They have the insurance of 1 year's salary. That's it. And Al Toon, if you remember, went down the same year. Al had $1 million policy. At the time, that sounded like a lot of money. He collected immediately when they deemed his career over. Dennis had nothing. So Mr. Hess paid him $100,000 a year for the rest of his life, which was off the books. It wasn't part of the salary cap, which I immediately thought it was going to be.
Here we go, guys.
Sorry, I got to live with. Are we counting that or not?
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network.
Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Our remaining moments with Pat Kirwan, he of NFL Radio's Moving the Chain, CBS's NFL Today show. Joining us once again, courtesy of Pinchers, from Tampa to Key West and over a dozen locations in between. Pinchers, because you can't fake fresh. At the time that we are talking, no official word from the NFL yet as to what, if anything, is going to happen concerning either the resumption or the official cancellation of the Bills-Bengals game. Pat, I don't know if it's in poor taste to talk about the games and the teams and what took place and what have you, but the games will go on, and they'll go on as well as no later than Saturday, that is for sure. And one of the teams playing Saturday is the Jacksonville Jaguars. By the way, do you have a problem with the Jags, who played Sunday, having to play Saturday when the Titans, their opponent, played on Thursday? So the Titans have 9 days and the Jags 6 to prepare for the biggest game of the year. Do you have a problem with that?
I absolutely do. And it didn't have to be that way. And so when the networks get involved with, they have their recommendations for games, I do have a problem with that. And I'll have a problem the week of the wild card games when there's a Monday night game. I hate that too. And someone who's going to win on Monday night is going to have to play on a short week. So the problems are twofold for me.
I will say this, and the league will go, well, the team that won on Monday night last year won the Super Bowl. Now, I'm with you, Pat, and I'm going to get paid for working that Monday night wild card game, but I'm with you. I'm not a fan of it, but the league would respond and go, well, the first time we did it, the team that won Monday night won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that tells me they never coached and they never played, and they have no idea of recovery times. It's not hard to recover from sitting at your damn desk all day.
Well, and that's what I'm good at, is recovering from my desk every damn day, Pat. And, you told both of us that Tampa Bay was going to win on Sunday, and we didn't believe you. We both picked Carolina. The old guy got it done again. It didn't look very good down 21-10 there, or 21-10. It looked like, okay, this is going to be another tough night for the Bucs. But somehow, some way, Brady decided to throw to his top receiver again, and boy, oh boy, did good things happen.
So I talked to Todd Bowles yesterday, and I said, Todd, I want to throw out my opinion at you. Shoot a hole in it if you think I'm wrong. I said, you at pass play number 35. I'm watching that game very closely, and I'm sitting with Phil Sims, and I said, Phil, look at this. Right at pass number 35, guess what ended? Carolina's pass rush. They were gassed. And I said to Todd, I said, do you think I'm off base saying this to you? So pass from 35 to 45, there was no pass rush. You know what he said to me? It was very humid on the field. We were having a hard time staying fresh. He goes, and their defense had to stay out there a long time. And yes, I agree with you. It ran out of gas. And you go watch the game. The pass rush looked like altitude Denver pass rush. Lean into the guard, hold your breath, and wait for the next play. They couldn't get to Brady. And what happened then, Mark? The deep ball came alive. He had time to pump fake. When was the last time you saw him pump fake? He pump fake because there was no rush.
Pat, you know my theory. Modern football defenses have 50 snaps. That's all they have in them. After 50 snaps, only the really good defenses can still get the job done. Most just normal defenses, if you will, not exceptional, they wilt, and
Right.
they wilt quickly.
And I think that game just backed up your premise because, well, think of the whole season, Mark. How many late comebacks have we had? How many offenses that look dead for 3 quarters look unstoppable in the fourth quarter? That's a big reason. But as Todd Bowles backed me up on it, I said, Todd, I swear it was at pick past 35. And from 35 to 45, freewheeling. How many times have you seen Brady throw 3 deep balls in a game?
I don't know if it's happened this year, Pat. I really don't. I've watched damn near every minute of every Bucs game. I've not seen that protection all year. I've not seen him have the ability to throw it deep. Evans has been a non-factor because he can't get the ball to him.
And Todd did add this to it. The week before, we saw the defense play 6 under, right? So they're just playing for the Tom Brady short game. So he said to me, he goes, they were hanging on plays and looking for routes that we ran. And they left their corners on an island. And once he had the time to throw, everyone thinks Tom Brady can't throw deep. They've never gone to practice. They have a deep ball drill every day. The guy can throw the ball 50 yards easy. So it all set up perfect for them. And I felt the same way about Rodgers. Now, he had a lot of help from special teams and defense, but I would not bet against those 2 old men to get their team to the playoffs.
Well, the one old guy's got Tampa locked in as the 4 seed, and they're going to face the second place team in the NFC East. Still figures to be Dallas, but I guess could be Philadelphia. And Rodgers with a win will have gone from 4-8 to 9-8 in the 7 seed. Congratulations, Pat, San Francisco. You may enter the playoffs on a 10-game winning streak, and your reward is Aaron Rodgers and the Packers.
Thank you. Now, there's a conversation I'd love to send Phil Sims to, because this is right up your alley, David. Phil and I, when I said, Phil, this might work out. It might work out that the Giants are going to the 49ers. He immediately went into the 8 times they played. When you were growing up, the history of the Giant love affair has a lot to do with playing the 49ers in big games. And Phil was involved in a lot of them. And it's a time really maybe for Friday to reflect back on those if it shakes out that way. But it was great listening to him reminisce all those moments, Parcells' pregame speeches. The whole thing would give you goosebumps.
He played in 3 of them. That's for sure. He played in 3 of them. Went 2-1 for the record.
Now, how did Mark and I know you knew that?
I was at one of them. The 85 game was the first Giants home playoff game in 22 years. I had saved up, and one of the greatest things I ever did in my life, I brought my grandfather and his best friend along with my good friend, and the 4 of us went to the Giants-Niners wild card game, Giants' first home playoff game in 22 years. Pat, I felt like a man. At 20 years of age, I felt like I was a man.
Well, you were, by the way. You could have gone to war at 2 years younger than that.
That's right. But at that time, I couldn't drink in Jersey for another year, by the way.
I'm sure you circumvented that rule. Grandpa, go get 2 beers.
I'm an Irish Catholic. I circumvented it 10 years earlier. What are you kidding?
Right. Confirmation party. Oh, Mark, you know what? See, when I open a can of worms, he's going to be all yours when I leave. He'll be talking Giant history.
That's quite all right. You said he would get goosebumps. I'm pretty sure he had them when you started talking. Pat, the Eagles, are they going to be able to get the horse in the barn? I mean, this is one decent performance by Minshew. He was terrible last week, and now their number one is at stake.
Well, they have lost both games without Hurts, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we know the Achilles heel, but Dr. Chow said he'll be able to take a shot, a pain relief shot, and go out and play if they need him to play this week. If they want him to play this week, he'll definitely be ready for the playoffs. That's his opinion, which now is my opinion.
Eagles likely also to catch a break. They host the Giants, and the Giants have nothing to play for. They're locked in as the 6th seed. There's a very good chance that they're going to rest Jones and Barkley and a bunch of key players. So Philly likely to catch a break with who they're playing and when they're playing them. A win, and they're the 1, and that locks in Dallas as
All right.
the 5.
You're the GM. Once again, Mark and I are paying attention to your answer here. I know that the Giants are negotiating with Daniel Jones's people. They're talking right now in a range of 25 to 30 million a year. I think the performance last Sunday made it over 30.
Yeah, I think so as well. It's probably, Pat, going to be like 3 for 100, maybe 5 for 160, something like that. But listen, we'll pick this up on Friday and we'll see what happens with the Bills and the Bengals between now and then. Pat, be good. Safe travels. Pat Kirwan joining us once again here on Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network.
David Moulton for Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com.
Yeah. Hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're gonna have to go around again.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Live is the official transportation provider of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Live is supported with the help of local partners like the Bayfront Inn. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn, something for everyone on 5th Avenue in downtown Naples. BayfrontInNaples.com. When you need a ride, book with Salt Live Transportation, 308-8686, or book on saltlivetransportation.com.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
So, like, we can't. Remember when I asked like a week or so ago, can we be rerunning something and record something at the same time?
Yeah.
Okay. But we can't be rerunning something and edit.
I'm sure we can, but you're asking him to edit a 14-minute segment into an 11-minute segment on the fly. I don't know how. He's never done that before, so I don't know how we do that.
I mean, I just have to pick apart what parts of the segment I'd need to cut out.
All right. We don't do it then. I just thought it was really good. Don't know that we can duplicate it.
Okay, then I'll just.
But how about if we then just try to recreate those segments? If you know what I mean. Because I thought those were our best segments of the day. I don't know what you thought, but I thought those were our best segments of the day.
You're referring to the two with Pat.
No, it's
Oh.
the 6. Well, 1, the 6, and the 8.
Okay.
What he wants to do is have the 8 o'clock segment, use it for the 9:21 segment.
And obviously, it's about 3 minutes too long. But Pat was very emotional, and the Dennis Bird stuff is really good. I mean, you know, I don't know if we do promos for this show because I don't listen to the station that it airs on, but there are a lot of promos in today's show.
We haven't had a promo for this show in over a year. We run 15-second promos the next day. That's what we have for promos. No one does them.
And I send Chris promos that I make, and he doesn't post them.
How do you know?
At least I don't hear them.
So you're telling me you cut 30-second promos and they don't air?
I have cut promos before, and that have not.
When's the
aired
last
yet.
time you cut one? Because, I mean, not being a jerk here, they need to be done every day. Or at least every other.
When's the last time?
Probably a few months ago.
Could you be more specific?
Tell you.
Have you done it during football season?
Yeah.
Okay. Canada relief. What about last night's play? I mean, you know, the players. What? I mean, what are you going to? What about last night's play? Are you going to strike over?
They're not going to strike over player safety. They want money. It's the only thing that matters to them.
You know. You know, the players are holding back on an 18th game because of player safety. They can't get grass fields. Thursday night football's here to stay.
An 18th week is coming. Or an 18th game, I should say.
Right. Well, that's the only thing that the players have held off on. You know. JC, in all honesty, the money should be refunded to you. I would, since it's not an official game, if the game is not played, then every single bet having anything to do with the Bills and the Bengals, the money should be refunded.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
Home stretch of Miller and Moulton for those listening in Lake City and surrounding areas, Tampa, St. Pete, Port Charlotte, and Venice. Bonus hour at the top of the hour for those in the 239, Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. We just had a very passionate Pat Kirwan. He, a member of the Jets organization when Dennis Bird was paralyzed in a game a little over 30 years ago. He said his mind went flooding right back to that moment in time. He reminded us that as Dennis Bird laid paralyzed on the field, that the Jets had 30 minutes to regroup, and then they resumed that game and played. And Pat said that was a big mistake. Big mistake. That players afterwards revealed they were in no condition to do so. And he said, and they would not have been in condition to do so 24 or 48 hours later.
And I think that was what was obvious. And I don't know about you, David, but to watching at home when they were showing the players and there was still a thought of playing the game, every time they showed a Bills player, I'm thinking, how emotionally can these guys put what happened aside and play a game? Because they didn't look in any condition to do so. And I do think that the coaches had a lot to do with this game not being played. I think if it wasn't for the coaches, well, I shouldn't say that. I don't think the players would have played, but I think the coaches really stepped to the forefront when you could see some of the video from the tunnel I think the coaches had as much to do with this game not being played as anybody else.
The NFL is denying that the league said after Damar Hamlin was removed from the field in an ambulance that the teams would get a 5-minute warm-up and then they would resume playing. The league is denying that they gave that directive. Clearly, that thought, that directive, was relayed to both teams and to all the networks that were covering the game on television and radio. Because the networks reported it, and the networks, by all accounts, radio and television, waited to get their information from the NFL or people representing the NFL. But also, as somebody who was in the booth and could observe the behavior on the field, Stefon Diggs gave a passionate speech to the team. He called over as many people as he could around him. And Lisa Salters was standing nearby and was listening to him, and he was clearly giving an impassioned speech because they were having to prepare to go back out and be gladiators again. And on the Bengals sideline, Joe Burrow was on the field throwing warm-up passes. Now remember, it was Bengals possession. So Joe Burrow's not throwing a football around if they're not resuming play. There's no reason for Stefon Diggs to give that speech on the field to 30 or so guys that are around him if they're not resuming playing. So there had to clearly be, whether it was miscommunicated, erroneous or not, there clearly was a belief from both teams that they were going to try to resume the game, even if that belief was very short-lived.
And after they go to the locker room, when that initial plan was stopped for whatever reason or never happened for whatever reason, the teams go to the locker rooms. It really wasn't until we watched the Bills support staff come out and start tearing down gear that we knew the game was done, because there never had really been word that they weren't playing. I think we all assumed that they weren't going to play at that point from the job that was being done by the broadcast team and Lisa Salters showing the video of the coaches speaking to one another and the referees and the league official that was there. But it wasn't until we saw the Bills staffers come out and start disassembling gear that we went, oh, okay, they're done for the night.
McDermott and Zach Taylor were called together by the officials or the referee. They were talked to. It was near the Bills sideline. Zach Taylor walked back to his sideline. A couple of minutes went by, and it really appeared. And this is where I'm seeing what I'm seeing with my eyes. I am not looking at the monitor that is in front of me. So I don't know if what I saw is what you saw at home. But it looked as if Zach Taylor looked across the field at Sean McDermott, and just the humanity in Zach Taylor looked across at the humanity that is Sean McDermott, and then Zach Taylor makes a slow walk across the field, and they talk for a little bit. And Zach Taylor turns around and motions to his team, go to the locker room. And the Bengals players would start to go to the locker room. The Bills players hesitated and moved a lot more slowly than the Bengals did. And then the Bills players made their way diagonally across the field to from where you sitting at home was watching. The Bengals exited stage lower right. The Bills exited diagonally stage lower left. And Mark, I was of the belief that once they left the field, they were not returning to the field. And yes, it took a long time, too long. And then, yes, when clearly people are removing things from the sidelines and what have you, you realize that, this game is officially not going to resume. But I thought once they left the field, they weren't coming back on.
I didn't know what to think because obviously they make no – I mean, there's the other part of this. Just I guess this comes from my years of working for a team. There's a crowd there of 70,000 people that don't know what the hell's going on, that want to watch a football game, and all that's on the board is game currently temporarily suspended.
Correct. We will we'll give you an update,
right,
coming up, basically.
And so I wondered if they were going to try to play the game. I really did when they went to the locker room because of all the fans and all of the other things there. But wisely, I think in everybody's estimation, they postponed the game. It very well may be canceled. We'll find that out. Still no word as of this moment as to what they're going to do.
No. I'm still, I'm checking my emails every commercial break because obviously ESPN's got 100 staffers that they're, if in fact this game is going to be played in some way, shape, or form, well, they have to televise it. And they're going to have to make and remake a whole bunch of arrangements. But I mean, as of 8:46 a.m., no official word from the National Football League. At least if they have, I have not received the email from ESPN. That's all I can tell you. So no one believes this game is being played, certainly not today. I guess there's a small chance it takes place tomorrow. But with every minute that goes by, it's seemingly the likelihood that the game will not be played. It will be a no contest. What did you think of Pat Kirwan's idea, which is essentially, because of this unprecedented situation, if the game, in fact, is not played, that it's the loss column that then determines who the top seed is, not winning percentage? Because very quickly, for those that not fully aware, the Bills were tied with the Chiefs coming into this weekend for the top seed, but they had the tiebreaker because they beat them. Well, the Chiefs won and the Bills didn't play. So technically right now the Bills are a half a game behind the Chiefs. And if this game isn't made up, the Bills can't catch the Chiefs if the Chiefs win Saturday in Vegas. And obviously we know the ramifications. And the Chiefs are the one, they get the bye, they have home field advantage, and seemingly the Bills are the 2, the Bengals are the 3, and it's a harder road. Doesn't mean you can't drive down that road and win, but it's a harder road.
I'm fascinated by what Pat said. I didn't think of that at all. I thought if that it was a no contest, the 1 seed will just simply go to the team with the best record. That winning percentage would take over. And in a game that was, a pick-em type game in Cincinnati, I hate the idea of the game not being played for the whole league. I get the reasons why. I really do. But if I can just talk football for a second, if we're talking about the 1 seed, the biggest, the most important thing you can get in trying to get to a Super Bowl without the games being played, I hate the idea of it, but I don't simply know what else to do. I think Pat's idea is fair.
So if your two choices were declaring it a no contest, but the standings are the standings, all right, and if that means that you end up missing out on something by a half a game because a game wasn't played, well, stuff happens and life's unfair. Or would you take the extra step? Would you take the Pat Kirwan step and say, I got to be honest, I'd call up the Chiefs and I'd call up the Ravens? Because the other part of this is that if Cincinnati loses to Buffalo, Baltimore has a chance with a win Sunday in Cincinnati, even though Cincinnati would be favored to win, and we don't even know if Lamar is playing. But the fact is that Baltimore with a win in Cincinnati Sunday would win the North. And that obviously would be a 3 seed in a home playoff game, et cetera, versus being the 6 seed and nothing but road playoff games.
The other thing that I like about it is that it puts Buffalo in a position where they still have to win against New England, so it doesn't affect the 7 seeds that are trying to get in any way, shape, or form from a competition standpoint. But I like Pat's idea. I would probably go against it. I would probably go with the winning percentages are what it is.
Well, and let's just say the game's declared a no contest and the standings are the standings. That means if the Chiefs beat Vegas Saturday, that's the first game of the Saturday doubleheader, by the way, Chiefs and the Raiders. If the Chiefs win Saturday, they're the 1. That locks in Buffalo as the 2, which also then locks in Cincinnati as the 3. Baltimore can't catch Cincinnati, which also then means in all likelihood, Baltimore and Cincinnati would be playing 2 weeks in a row. So if you're the Ravens, do you even try to rush Lamar back to play Sunday, or do you give him another week? If we're going to have to play Cincinnati 2 weeks in a row in Cincinnati, why don't we just mail one in Sunday and then bring our big guns for the following Sunday? So you could have a case, Mark, where both Buffalo and Cincinnati and Baltimore, for that matter, have nothing to play for this weekend, just simply by declaring the game a no contest. And as you mentioned, if Buffalo has nothing to play for and they decide for a bunch of reasons not to play their big gun Sunday, the Patriots have a much better chance of going into Buffalo getting a win. And if they get it, they make the playoffs at the expense of the Dolphins and the Steelers and even potentially the Jags, who can lose Saturday night and actually back their way in. It's unlikely, but it's possible. Patriots, Dolphins, Steelers lose. The Jags are the 7 at 8 and 9. But I digress. So
no matter how you work this out, if it's a no contest, you're going to tick off some teams.
I don't know if it's tick off, but I think everybody would just go, wow, unprecedented situation. This, we either caught a break or caught a bad break.
Pat thinks playing Wednesday is basically a non-starter. I don't. I think Wednesday is a distinct possibility because I think the NFL deep down wants to play this game badly.
For the record, the Chargers are the 5 seed right now. The Ravens have dropped to the 6. They both have the same record. The Chargers have a better conference record. So, just needs to be pointed out. NFL, as of this date and time, yet to make an official determination as to what, if anything, they're going to do about the Bengals and the Bills. Miller and Moulton. If you missed any part of the show, and you missed a really good one in our estimation, go to floridasportsnetwork.com and download what you missed. The bonus hour is next.
Ladies and gentlemen, yeah. Hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're gonna have to go around again.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, Wouldn't you?
Salt Live is the official transportation provider of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Live is supported with the help of local partners like the Bayfront Inn. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn, something for everyone on 5th Avenue in downtown Naples. BayfrontInNaples.com. When you need a ride, book with Salt Live Transportation, 308-8686, or book on saltlivetransportation.com.
Don't miss the Miami Dolphins watch party every Sunday at the Seaside Bar and Grill in Bonita Springs. Presented by Clutch Vodka. The Seaside will be serving Clutch Vodka drinks, including the awesome Bloody Mary bar at the Seaside. If you can't be at Hard Rock Stadium, come have fun at the best place in town to watch the Dolphins and enjoy the best, clean, crisp, smoothest vodka. That's Clutch with a K. Miami Dolphins parties every week at the Seaside Bar and Grill on Old 41 in Bonita Springs. Powered by Clutch Vodka.
Miller and Moulton here for the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day.
Mark, remember Nick Charles, Fred Hickman, the CNN Play of the Day?
Yeah, CNN did a nightly sports show. That was a while ago.
Yes, it was. Just work with me. Everyone liked the pod, the Play of the Day. So how about we have the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day?
Sounds good. Fun. Smooth. Like Clutch Vodka.
Listen weekday mornings for the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day.
That's Clutch with a K. Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com.
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
JC, you clearly don't want to hear my answer, but I answered it already.
It's no bet.
Yeah.
It's a no bet. It's not an opinion. It's a no bet. It's just the way it is.
And I'm sorry, it was the last leg of a 10-leg parlay, and you won the first 9. Don't know what to tell you. You get your money back. That's it. That's all that the betting services can do. I have no idea what fantasy leagues do about people who were playing Allen and Burrow and Chase and what have you. I have no idea. I have no idea. Do you then allow... And I'm being serious here. I'm not a fantasy guy, and I don't give a shit. But could you allow the players who had players involved in Monday Night Football? Do you then allow their stats from the final? Nobody else gets nothing. But if you had somebody who was in the game last night, do you then get to count their stats this weekend and then determine winners and losers? Otherwise, I have no idea what to do.
I don't know what to do. I think they'll probably be screwed because I don't know how else, because that's only for leagues. It's not DFS. DFS wouldn't only have a tournament for last night. DFS doesn't have anything to do with Monday when you do the game. So,
right. And as for Racer, I can't believe the league doesn't have a policy for canceled games. This isn't a power failure. This isn't a snowstorm. Okay. I mean, come on, dude. There's a player who, for all intents and purposes, was dead on the field and was brought back to life. I mean, can you think of another situation like this? It's like a player being injured. That's football. You're an asshole.
No. He's talking. You're not paying any attention to what he's saying.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Sorry.
He's talking about
My bad.
fantasy. He's
My
talking
bad.
about fantasy and why that would be.
Okay, my bad. Sorry.
There's 47 conversations going on at once.
That's true. And I don't get most of them. My bad, ugly bag of water. That's on me. My bad. I'm sorry. I do think that's a compromise for fantasy, by the way.
I would let him play a bench player. I would say if you had Josh Allen, whoever your other quarterback is, those points count. If you had Diggs, whoever your receiver is, those points count. That's what I would do.
Well, but Racer, like when games got canceled with COVID, they rescheduled them. But I mean, Racer, with COVID, it's not like teams got to vote whether they wanted to play. I mean, this is literally a situation where the guys, you're asking the gladiators to be gladiators, and they're like, I don't think we're up for it. I'm actually going to text Roto.
Got 30 seconds. Ten seconds.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
It is the bonus hour of Miller and Moulton on this Tuesday. Thanks for being with us. Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. I'm still in Cincinnati, awaiting word as to whether or not the Bills-Bengals are going to be rescheduled later today. Very unlikely. Tomorrow, unlikely. But no official word from the NFL as of this hour. Mark, a few, and if you missed it, by the way, Pat Kirwan was on an hour ago. He was a member of the Jets front office when Dennis Byrd was paralyzed during a game, and that the Jets, within a half an hour, had to resume playing. And he says the league made a mistake then, and the players afterwards were an absolute mess, and they were not in position to resume playing, and they shouldn't have been made to, and so he believes that the game should not be replayed and based on past precedent. And I don't know if we could talk to former Lions players with Mike Utley and, Patriots and Raiders players, even though that was a preseason game 45 years ago with Darryl Stingley, et cetera. Mark, we've had a few people, I'm assuming text line. I can see the Twitch chat room. Had a friend just text me also. Do you remember the Denmark soccer player Eriksson? Is it Christian Eriksson?
Yep.
Was his name?
That's the right name.
And he suffered the cardiac arrest during a match. They took the players off the field. They suspended the match for 30 to 45 minutes. And then they brought everybody back and they played. Now, when they were removed from the field last night, I was convinced they weren't coming back and playing.
And I guess I wasn't. I thought that was going to be the cooling down period, if you will, if it was good to try to check where their emotions are and give them an opportunity to refocus. But that obviously wasn't the case, because from the sounds of it, pretty soon after they were in the locker room, and I was a little off on my timing, because when they were showing the players or the staff breakdown, they had already reported that Diggs was in a towel. They had walked out of the locker room. So it was a little bit before that the Bills players were all, basically showering and getting ready to go home or go to the hospital or wherever it is they were heading next.
There was a tragic incident in Cincinnati 26 years earlier. John McSherry was a home plate umpire opening day of the 96 baseball season, and he suffered a heart attack right on the field. and they were administering CPR right on the field. And John would die on his way to the hospital. One of the umpires in the crew went with him in the ambulance, and so there were 2 umpires left. When the managers came out to talk to the umpires were a bit of a mess. And the managers, along with the umpires, said, yeah, why don't we just come back tomorrow?
It's
And
really
so
easy in baseball. You play 2
it
the
is.
next day.
There's no doubt, and you have 6 months to make up the game. And clearly, exacerbating this situation is the fact that we're at the point of the season where there is no wiggle room. There are no more bye weeks.
There's only one bye week for one team in the playoffs. Just the 1 seed gets a bye.
Now, there is a week off in between the conference championship games and the Super Bowl. I mean, if you want to hold the whole league up to allow the Bills and the Bengals to play this game this weekend, and then we just push everything back a week. But
this is where, David, when you made the comment that this is a multi-billion-dollar industry run on several networks, I could not see that scenario happening. I just cannot. In fact, it's the one that is probably the easiest to do because you actually, as you mentioned, you have the week between championship weekend and the Super Bowl. Logistically, you could push this all back and you have the time frame to do so. And yet, that seems to me as the craziest option because of the networks.
Yeah, I think it's the most unlikely. It'd actually be easy to do.
It's the easiest one, but it's the most unlikely to me.
And so what I believe is going to happen, and Mark, I believe you agree, is that this game is not going to be played and it's going to be a no contest, and the Bengals and the Bills are merely going to play 16 games and the whole rest of the league's going to play 17. And I have to admit, off the top, if that were to be the case, has there ever been an instance where we took a look at the final standings in the NFL and 1 or 2 teams played less games than everybody else? Apparently a game in 1935 got canceled. I mean, most of us barely consider it the National Football League in 1935. I don't know if officially it was even. Might have been under different letters, which became the NFL. But so, I mean, that's how, quote unquote, unprecedented, the situation we're at here. But I can't recall it. Teams, with 2 ties, all sorts of crazy final standings that we could all recite of our favorite teams or just footnotes. But I don't ever recall an NFL standings, unlike baseball, where you can have teams play at 162 and the other one plays 161 and one will play 160. I mean, that happens all the time, unless it affects the playoff standings. And then what does Major League Baseball do? They force you before the end of the season to make up said games.
Been a few people that have texted that reminded them of the 500 when Dale Sr. died. That in the moment it didn't seem that bad, and yet quickly the gravity of the situation became apparent, and the announcers didn't have the complete idea of what was going on. And I can see similarities. I can see where people point to that. Obviously, we know what happened to Dale Sr. And right now it looks as if Hamlin's going to be, by the early reports, things are going along in the right direction.
Yeah, it looks, the appearance right now is that he is going to survive this. The one thing I will say, Mark, going back and understanding a little bit of network television that I now understand, if you were to go back and they were to play Fox's broadcast in its entirety, I think there's a clear line in which you realize that the word was out that he was dead. They just were told by NASCAR they were not the ones to announce it. NASCAR was going to make the announcement. Because for the final 40 minutes to an hour that Fox was on the air and people were doing live reporting and what have you, I mean, they were speaking in the most grave terms possible without saying he had passed. I mean, you certainly got, if you were to go back and look at it, there seems to be about an hour there where the word was that he was dead. Just you can't say it. Say whatever it is you're going to say, but you can't say those words.
And you're right. But for 10 or so minutes last night, sitting on my couch, David, I had the same feeling. So much so that I sent you a text. Something I don't ever do when you're working. I don't. And, David said, it's fine. You can go ahead. I don't. He's working.
Right. I say, that's okay. I answered text during the commercial break.
And you did.
But
there was a time, at least for me, and I don't, you were the one that, you guys saw the CPR a few minutes before you let us know that it had happened. I've got to think that up in the booth, that those things had to be at least in your heads.
Well, I said earlier on the show, it took 30 seconds for my brain to compute what I was seeing. Things seem, I don't want to say they went in slow motion, but okay, he collapses, the players turn to the bench and they're like, he needs attention. Well, that's something that you see when someone suffers, like when the players are yelling out in pain, when they blow out their knee or they dislocate an ankle or something, you see action like that. Okay, they bring a stretcher out. You've seen that before. They bring the backboard out and okay, if it's a concussion, which when he collapsed, what did most people think? Oh, wow, he's knocked out. Okay, so they're going to protect the head and neck and what have you. Now, when the ambulance started backing out onto the field, that was like, you don't normally see this. But, if he's got a head and neck injury, they're being safe, okay. But then it was when we really zeroed in and the players were surrounding him, but there was a clear space where you could see the one medical person doing CPR on Damar Hamlin. And that was like, holy blank. They're doing CPR.
And a couple of the articles I've read during the show is the fact that they got the heartbeat on the field was big. David Chow spoke of just the doctor in the league that Pat often refers to, talked about, outside of a hospital, believe it or not, for this to happen on a football field, believe it or not, one of the places where you have all the equipment there. You have emergency medical personnel. You have a slew of doctors that the Cincinnati and Buffalo medical staffs need to be commended for their quick work last night. And the fact that they had all of the equipment necessary to revive this young man.
The Bills released a statement in the early morning hour saying that Hamlin suffered cardiac arrest and that his heartbeat was restored on the field. 30 minutes from the moment he collapsed until the moment that the ambulance pulled away. 30 minutes. It seemed like 2 hours.
It had to. It had to. I mean, because it did sitting on the couch. So I can't imagine when you're in the booth and you're in the moment trying to, all the things going on. And, I said it before. I thought that Joe and Troy and Lisa Salters did a tremendous job. I really thought that Booger McFarland and Susie Colbert and Adam Schefter, particularly McFarland and Colbert, just their exchange back and forth was really riveting television. I thought Booger McFarland was excellent in a very, very tough spot to be in.
Reports that paddles were used on the field, oxygen was administered on the field. I mean, by all accounts, they brought him back to life.
Miller and Moulton, thanking you for listening on a Tuesday morning. We'll be back with more in a moment right here on the Florida Sports Network.
Don't miss the Miami Dolphins watch party every Sunday at the Seaside Bar and Grill in Bonita Springs. Presented by Clutch Vodka. The Seaside will be serving Clutch Vodka drinks, including the awesome Bloody Mary bar at the Seaside. If you can't be at Hard Rock Stadium, come have fun at the best place in town to watch the Dolphins and enjoy the best, clean, crisp, smoothest vodka. That's Clutch with a K. Miami Dolphins parties every week at the Seaside Bar and Grill on Old 41 in Bonita Springs. Powered by Clutch Vodka.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com.
The waterways of Naples are a beauty to behold, and the Bayfront Inn has multiple ways for guests to enjoy the water and have some fun. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn. Something for everyone. On 5th Avenue in Naples.
Golfers, are you bored of the same old driving range warm-up routine that's not getting you the results that you want on the course? Power up your golf swing by adding resistance bands to your range sessions with the Orange Whip Golf's Power Strap Kit. Featuring band attachments to your feet and hips, Power Strap resistance training will boost clubhead speed, increase power, improve flexibility, all with just a few swings. Buy a Power Strap Kit today. Go to orangewhipgolf.com and use code Miller10 to receive an additional 10% off the already great price of $119. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network. You know, and David, the show was over without this today. We didn't need this. Had the whole show done today. Because it was today in 2007 that Nick Saban resigned being the Dolphins coach. The show was over before it started.
15 years ago.
We had a centralized theme on a Tuesday show today that was a home run.
Yes, we did.
I did this yesterday, and I'm like, oh, snap.
16 years ago, my bad. Okay.
I don't know if you got the email I sent yesterday or if you read it.
Where did you send it?
To the Florida Sports Network one. Anything with Florida Sports Network goes to Florida Sports Network. But still haven't gotten anything back from this guy. I'm not real happy about this whole thing we're supposed to be doing Sunday that I know nothing about. The place shows they have live entertainment. And then he emails me back. I forwarded it to the GM. I wanted to snap. Like, you forwarded my personal email to the GM of a client. Do you understand how business is done? Because it ain't done that way.
Also, just answer my questions. Don't just. You asked simple questions. I saw them.
And I called Bruce before I even sent it. I said, Bruce, I'm going to respond to this email because there's a lot of information we don't know, and I don't want to be Debbie Downer. But he told me to go to the website. The website says they've got entertainment from noon to 4 on Sunday. How are people? If I'm expecting people to go watch a game, they're going to want to listen to a game. These are questions I need answered before I start promoting an event, which no one will be at anyhow, unless all of Twitch chat wants to go to the Bayfront Inn on Sunday. I'll probably end up buying your first round if you do. Thanks, Wancho.
I was just given an email that says, as of noon, I can travel. But that no official word from the NFL. But that basically ESPN's releasing us as of noon. Which is good because my flight's scheduled for 3.
It's perfect. Where is that stadium right downtown?
Yeah. They're all downtown. The arena, baseball, football, they're all right there.
What's the arena?
I'm guessing it's where, is it where Xavier and or Cincinnati when they play? I don't know.
Oh, there's a Cincinnati arena. Like there was a Cincinnati Gardens. That's where the old IHL team used to play. That's not anywhere near downtown.
Here we go.
Yeah, it is. It's a beautiful downtown to see when you're driving north from Kentucky.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
"21 minutes past the hour. Miller and Moulton, Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Still no word from the NFL, for whatever that's worth, as to the Bills and the Bengals and whether or not the game will resume at some point or be declared a no contest. However it is that the league is going to handle this. This seems unprecedented. If there's a precedent, well, feel free to educate us. Mark, there was a lot to talk about today. Before T. Higgins went crashing into Damar Hamlin and the sports world stopped. There were reports from Bruce Feldman, amongst others, that, hey, Harbaugh gets an offer, he's gone.
Gone.
That he's sick of the college, with the NIL and the transfer, and get me back in the National Football League. That if the Colts or whoever,
or Denver,
Broncos, right.
But it's got to be an offer. This is the case that happened last year, is that Harbaugh went to Minnesota thinking he was getting an offer, not an interview.
Right.
By all accounts, it's why he told his coordinators why they could leave.
And then he's like, wait a minute, you're here to interview me? What do you need to know? I coached the Niners for 4 years. We didn't have a losing record in any of the 4. Went to 3 NFC championship games and a Super Bowl. What is it you need to know? I don't mean to be a jerk or anything, but my resume is better than all of yours. Well, what are we doing here? I'm guessing that's probably, Mark, what he thought on the inside.
Totally. I think he may have said it on the outside, David. I mean...
It sounds like he got there in the morning and they were exchanging whatever it was they were exchanging, and they did lunch. And then Jim's thinking he's going to get the job offer, and instead they start doing a job interview. He was like, wait, what?
That's not what I'm here for.
Wait.
I'm here for a contract.
Interview?
I thought we were negotiating deals of this.
You think I got on the plane from Ann Arbor to come to Minneapolis to, audition for this job? Yeah, I don't think so. So apparently that's where Jim Harbaugh is, according to Bruce Feldman and others. That if there's an NFL team that wants him, and they make an offer, he gone, as Hawk Harrelson would famously say. He gone.
If you're Irsay, don't you just offer him the job then?
Oh, for goodness sakes, yes. By the way, he's in their Ring of Honor.
Right. Didn't he win he got their first playoff win in Indianapolis?
Yes, they won 2 playoff games that year, and they lost late in an AFC championship game at Pittsburgh, the year that Cowher first went to the Super Bowl, the 95 season. Had Marshall Faulk with him as quarterback on that team. And Marshall hadn't been traded to the Rams yet. They're pretty good this just in. So
would be fascinating from the Colts standpoint, just for this reason, is they already got a bunch of heat about bringing Saturday in midseason, the whole Rooney rule and not interviewing people. If they go with Harbaugh, it would be already a foregone decision that they've made, and they will be circumventing the system once again, just for the record.
Can't believe an NFL team would circumvent the Rooney rule. Now that would be a shocking development.
Correct.
But also today's a big anniversary, Mark. I know you're going to mention it in the next segment, but I don't think you should hold on to it for another 20 minutes is what I'm saying.
Well, this is hard because if you're a Dolphin fan, you're not mentally stable right now. It has been a rough few weeks.
Yeah, you know what? Come to think of it, bringing this up on the heels of a 5-game losing streak, it makes us, we're going to get expletives thrown our way here, but listen, the facts are the facts.
The facts are the facts. And yesterday, I knew today was a day when usually at some point in the afternoon, I'll do it later today for tomorrow. And as I was going through all this stuff, there's a bunch of interesting factoids. But in 2007, I will read it from the service that I get it. High-profile Miami Dolphins NFL head coach Nick Saban resigns after agreeing to return to college football and take the head coaching job at Alabama.
About 2 weeks after, he looked into the camera and said, I am not going to be the next coach of Alabama. Now I changed my mind. And listen, I don't want to say that things went badly for the Dolphins, but they hired Cam Cameron and they went 1-15. So,
butterflies.
Right. And then they followed it up by passing on Matt Ryan and taking Jake Long. So, it's not like maybe it set the organization back. I know Sperano had the 1 year. So did Adam Gase. Okay. I mean, let's just. And you know what the irony was, Mark? 4 months before he resigned, do you know who was on the cover of Sports Illustrated? The Miami Dolphins, because they were SI's pick to win the Super Bowl.
Right.
They had gone 9-7 in Nick's first year, winning, I think, like their last 5 or 6 games. I mean, they basically pulled what the Packers are doing now. The Dolphins did. They missed the playoffs, but it was like, hey, this team's on the rise.
Might be more like the Lions than the Packers, but
okay.
I see.
There you go. So,
But you always like to play those what-if games. This is the ultimate football what-if.
Well, this is staggering. I mean, Rich Rod said yes, slept on it, woke up the next day and said no. Think about how different the football world would be, okay, if Rich Rod said yes to Alabama. So then he stays at West Virginia, and they have a chance to play for the national championship, and all he has to do as a 4-touchdown favorite is beat a 4-win Pitt team, and they choke like big hairy dogs and they lose, which allows LSU to play Ohio State. We all know how that worked out. And then because Rich Rod went back to West Virginia, Nick ends up the head coach of Alabama, but Rich Rod a year later does what? Says yes to Michigan after Greg Schiano slept on it and said, nah, I'll stay at Rutgers. The 6 degrees of separation from Rich Rodriguez is staggering if you go back and lay it out. And I mean staggering how it changed the football landscape as we know it. Because also Nick hires, look at all the assistants he hires, one of them who's now at Georgia. How's that working out? It's unbelievable the tentacles from Nick Saban ending up at Alabama in both the college and pro sports world. Sorry, Mark.
Well, and Rich Rod not ending up at Alabama and ending up at Michigan.
And running it into the ground.
What happened at Michigan is what happened at Miami when Nick left.
"16 years ago today. Mal Moore pulled into the driveway. Miss Terry was the one that opened the garage door. Nick wanted nothing to do with him. Nick stayed upstairs for 2 hours while Mal sat downstairs in the kitchen. Miss Terry just said, "Don't worry, he's going to come down." 2 hours later, he came down, reportedly cursing Mal out. "Don't know why you're here. I'm not interested in what have you, blah, blah, blah." 3 hours later, he'd agreed to go to Alabama.
And as Paul Harvey would say, the rest. Now you know the rest of the story. But I saw that yesterday, and I couldn't help but put my head down, shake it, and laugh a little bit because Nick Saban is still the most hated man in Miami Dolphin circles.
More than Belichick?
I think more than Belichick.
Wow.
Miller and Moulton wrapping things up on a Tuesday on the other side. Thanks so much for listening right here on the Florida Sports Network. Miller and Moulton here for the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day.
Mark, remember Nick Charles, Fred Hickman, the CNN Play of the Day?
Yeah, CNN did a nightly sports show. That was a while ago.
Yes, it was. Just worked with me. Everyone liked the pod, the Play of the Day. So how about we have the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day?
Sounds good. Fun. Smooth. Like Clutch Vodka.
Listen weekday mornings for the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day.
That's Clutch with a K. Golfers, are you bored of the same old driving range warm-up routine that's not getting you the results that you want on the course? Power up your golf swing by adding resistance bands to your range sessions with the Orange Whip Golf's Power Strap Kit. Featuring band attachments to your feet and hips, Power Strap resistance training will boost club head speed, increase power, improve flexibility, all with just a few swings. Buy a Power Strap Kit today. Go to orangewhipgolf.com and use code Miller10 to receive an additional 10% off the already great price of $119.
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com. You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network. Pronger just tweeted out prayers for Damar Hamlin can have the same outcome that I was fortunate to have with my incident. Oof.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. Dana White apparently slapped his wife on New Year's Eve after she slapped him.
Mm-hmm.
I had not seen that. I guess I got to spend more time on TMZ.
So is the reason why TMZ is always the source that breaks things first because they are the highest bidder of information?
Sometimes, and sometimes they'll put stuff up that others won't. They don't vet their stories as well as others do.
And they're just very unfiltered.
But if they have video, they'll put video up right away.
But
and they will pay the most for it.
Right. They're the highest bidders always. It's interesting. Screwed up a lot of times. One minute.
I got to admit, I don't understand any of you paying any attention to Skip Bayless. I mean, ignore him.
I think it just disappoints people that he still has a voice on such a high.
He only has it because you people keep paying attention to him. And by the way, 200,000 people watch that show. That's it.
Thanks for listening. And now, more of Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
22 minutes before the top of the hour, 17 until we're out of here. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Angelique Chengelis to talk the future of Michigan football on the show tomorrow. Seth Everett scheduled to join us tomorrow. As of this hour, no official word from the NFL as to what, if anything, is going to happen concerning the resumption of the Bills-Bengals game.
I really thought we'd have something by 9 o'clock this morning. I really did. Or at least some sort of word, and there's nothing out there yet. Still postponed is the only word we're hearing from the National Football League regarding the Bengals-Bills game from last night that obviously was postponed after that horrible injury in the first quarter. No easy way to transition, David, so let's get right to this.
It's time for someone to take back this segment, if for no other reason than to stop David from talking about Meghan and Harry. Here's Mark Miller with Today Was the Day When.
1823, Stephen F. Austin receives a grant of land in Texas from the government of Mexico. 1870, construction begins on the Brooklyn Bridge. It would be completed May 24th, 1883.
For the record, that's 13 years.
That's called construction delays. They still got that done faster than I-4 in Orlando or the Big Dig in Boston, and it wasn't close.
Yes, they did, Mark. Yes, they did.
1888, the first wax drinking straw was patented by Marvin Stone in Washington, D.C. And that was good because then women could finally drink a Coca-Cola out of the bottle with a straw. 1899, first known use of the word automobile appears in the editorial in the New York Times. It was announced today in 1920 that Harry Fraze announced to sell Babe Ruth to the Yankees for $125,000 in cash and a $350,000 loan. Today in 1938, the March of Dimes was established to fight polio. And I was going to look this up, so shame on me, but the American National Collegiate Football Rules Committee today in 1941, David, announced a new rule permitting free substitution of players. I don't know what the rule was before, and that's what I just didn't look up.
Right.
But I'm guessing it was more like soccer.
Yeah, I guess so. Needed a note from your mother, something.
Something like that. Or Epstein's mother, for that matter.
Hello.
Today in 46, Governor Dewey commutes Lucky Luciano's sentence on the condition he doesn't resist deportation to Italy for his reward for his wartime cooperation. Today in 47, the first opening session of Congress was televised. It didn't happen again for 30 more years. They would break ground on the Houston Astrodome today in 1962. The first AFC and NFC championship games were played today in 71. The Colts beat the Raiders, and the Cowboys beat the Niners. Today in 73, a 12-man syndicate led by George Steinbrenner buys the Yankees from CBS for $10 million.
George, in his first press conference, is a true story, says he's going to be more of a silent owner.
For 2 years.
Months, maybe.
77, Wozniak and Jobs incorporate this little company called Apple. Yeah. Today in 83, Tony Dorsett sets an NFL record on Monday Night Football with a 99-yard rush in a game against the Vikings.
And the Cowboys only had 10 men on the field. That's right. They scored the touchdown. The Vikings had 11. The Cowboys had 10. Dorsett took it to the house.
Today in 1985, Mitch McConnell becomes Senator of Kentucky. That's 1985.
That's 38 years ago. Hello.
Good gracious. 1987, Aretha is the first female inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Damn right.
You're damn right.
Damn right. And she stood there and said, "What the hell took you guys so long? Don't you know who I am? How about a little respect?"
See what you did there. And I stopped you before you could sing it. If it was Felipe, he'd be singing right on through. Today in 93, Frank Reich leads the Bills back from a 32-point deficit to defeat the Oilers, 41-38.
Okay. When it was 28-3 at the half, I hadn't given up on the game. But people forget Reich throws a pick six early third quarter. And at that moment, Mark, I got to be honest with you, I started to do other things. And the game was still on in the background, mind you. But come on, it's over. It's 35-3.
1997, Bryant Gumbel co-hosted his final Today Show.
Wow.
2004, Casey Kasem gives up the reins of American Top 40 to Ryan Seacrest. 2007, Nick Saban resigns from the Dolphins to go coach at Alabama. 2009, the Bitcoin network is created.
Wow.
And in 2016, Jimmy Butler breaks Michael Jordan's Bulls record for points and a half, scoring 40 of his 42 in the second half as the Bulls defeat the Raptors by 2. Those born today that are no longer with us, J.R. Tolkien, the author, Bud Adams, the former owner, Hank Stram, and George Martin. He produced the Beatles. Those celebrating birthdays today, Bobby Hall is 84, Stephen Stills is 78, John Paul Jones from Zeppelin is 73, Rick McLeish is 73, wrestling announcer Jim Ross, 71, Mel Gibson, 67, Michael Schumacher is 54, and Eli Manning is 42. And that, David, is today was the day when.
Mark, I mentioned this because, well, it's a story that still has, some life to it, even though everyone involved is dead. But Jack Ruby died today, 56 years ago, January 3rd of 1967, as he was awaiting his second trial. A Texas Court of Appeals had overturned his death sentence for killing Lee Harvey Oswald, and they had granted him a new trial. He died of cancer. Of course, the Warren Commission said that both Oswald and Ruby acted alone. Nothing to see here. Let's move on. Of course, it was 15 years later that Congress actually formed a House Select Committee on Assassinations, and in a preliminary report said Kennedy was, quote, probably assassinated as a result of a conspiracy, unquote. So it's not just a bunch of yahoos, or maybe you could say it's the ultimate bunch of yahoos since it came from Congress. Okay, but that's really where it all came from. It's a conspiracy theory. Says who? Well, as a matter of fact, Congress. Back to you in the studio.
You've heard folks elsewhere mock Florida is gonna Florida. Well, Mark Miller sees it differently. He calls it the good, the bad, and the ugly. What you got, Mark?
Christian Cahill of North Andover, Massachusetts, is a good guy by all accounts. He was on his way to his men's hockey league game when he stopped to get gas so that his wife wouldn't have to do it in the morning. He bought a bottle of water and a lotto ticket.
Oh, here we go.
He won $1 million with the lotto ticket.
Nice.
He chose the annuity option and will receive 20 payments of $50,000 each. All for getting gas from his wife. Of course, it was on his way to his men's league game.
Right.
Probably didn't comment about the 12-pack that he bought there, too, for what was he going to drink in the locker room.
Right. Or the girlfriend. But anyway.
Whoa! It's a men's league, not the NHL, David. Come on.
I'm sorry. Nor the PGA Tour. Moving on.
For the bad, we go to Fort Myers and the Publix on South Point Boulevard. Authorities are looking for a man who stole tires from a car parked behind Publix. Victim's car was parked at Publix. Man exited a van and removed 2 tires from the car before fleeing. That's a real SOB right there, David.
I was going to say, that's unnecessary.
You're in the 10 and under item. You come back out and you're missing 2 tires.
Here's my question. Nobody saw that as suspicious activity?
Finally, the ugly, we go to Northport.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. They weren't at a Firestone, right?
No.
Right. Okay.
Publix.
Gotcha.
Cleveland Green was on a Greyhound bus heading from Fort Myers to Tampa when he decided it would be a lot of fun to pleasure himself on the bus.
Ah, for goodness sakes.
He started trying to speak to lots of people, tried to move closer to a woman. Finally, she got up and told the bus driver they had to pull it over. He was arrested. And now Cleveland can doodle himself in county jail. That is the good, the bad, and the ugly on today, January the 3rd, 2023.
Is that what we're calling it now? Doodle yourself? There are 3 NBA games tonight. None of them are any good. They're so bad, in fact, Turner took the night off. I said, we're not interested in televising any of this. All right. 11 games in the NHL. Both Florida teams are in action. Tampa Bay's in Chicago. They played for a cup 8 years ago. Who knows when Chicago will play for a cup again. And the Panthers are home for Arizona. Let me tell you something. If they lose to Arizona at home, they need to blow things up. And I understand they brought in a new coach and new players this offseason, but seriously, they lose to Arizona, we're way beyond a team meeting.
Vegas thinks the same thing. For the record, the Panthers are minus 350 in this game.
We got none of the Florida teams are playing tonight in college hoops, at least none of the big boys. We got 7 college basketball games. I will say this. If you are remotely into college hoops, if you only watch Big 12 basketball the rest of the year, you'd be in great shape.
David, there was a stat that came out today with like the toughest schedules remaining in college basketball. The 12 toughest schedules remaining apparently are like all Big 12 teams. Conference is loaded.
Yes. Really not an easy game of the bunch.
Best game tonight, Kansas is at Texas Tech. Number 3, Kansas, just a 1.5-point favorite at Texas Tech.
Well, they just beat Oklahoma State and Lawrence by 2. Big 12 basketball is just going to be unhinged this year. It's going to be so tough, grueling. But ESPN2's got Mississippi State, Tennessee, Kansas, Texas Tech. All right. I will say this might be the time that you might want to start checking out your ACC network, your Big Ten network, SEC network. There's a lot of good games out there. It's January now. You can start paying attention to college hoops. It's okay.
There's really good Big 12 basketball every night. The other one I like tonight, Virginia's at Pitt. Pitt always plays pretty tough at home. Virginia's a 6.5-point favorite.
Pitt just upset North Carolina the other day.
So those are my college hoop games tonight. And you're right. It is college basketball season. It started.
By the way, we talk all the time about college football and teams that are most overranked. North Carolina was number 1 to start the year. They're going to struggle to make the tournament the way they're going and some of their early season losses. Honestly, I mean, they're not ranked. They look like the 6th best team in the ACC, maybe. I mean, it's Kentucky, unranked, looking shaky. People wondering, is it time to move on from John Cal? Does there need to be an intervention? Wow.
Well, they were supposed to be better than this. They've underachieved so far this season, and a lot of Kentucky teams underachieve in December. It's when January, February, and March comes, they're supposed to get their act together, and right now, we'll see if they can.
So we'll continue to wait on the NFL. At this point, who knows when they'll make an official announcement as to what they're doing about the Bills and the Bengals. All I know is that I'm in Cincinnati and I'm planning on going home. And I have not been told from anyone associated with ESPN that there's a reason for me to stay. Now, obviously, that can change with one email. But anyway, that's kind of how most of us are operating who are in Cincinnati in terms of whether or not we think in the next 24 to 36 hours this game's going to be played.
No other way to do this show today, but in a quite serious mode. If you missed any of the show, a lot of great insight from Pat Kirwan, a lot of insight from David, who was in the booth for all of this last night with the Monday Night Football crew. You can download any of the show. Go to floridasportsnetwork.com or any of the usual places that you get your podcast to pick up any part of the show that you may have missed from today.
And Pat Kirwan, the top of the 8 o'clock hour, speaking emotionally, poignantly about being a member of the Jets front office when Dennis Byrd was paralyzed on the field during a game and how it was handled then and the mistakes that he strongly feels to this day were made then, and he does not want to see the NFL make the same mistakes now.
And as of this moment, nothing yet coming out of the National Football League as to what will happen with either the resumption or cancellation of the Bills-Cincinnati game. Miller and Moulton. Seth Everett on the show tomorrow. Angelique Shangelis to talk about Coach Harbaugh at Michigan. Thanks for listening right here on the Florida Sports Network.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're gonna have to go around again.